sustainability and the diversity of British ingredients. Johnny joins me now. Johnny, congratulations on having these 2 Michelins. How do you get a Michelin green star?
Probably a better question for the inspectors, but I mean, I think it's down to a lot of hard work.
What hoops do you have to go through?
So I think it's working every day on it. Sustainability isn't something that you just achieve and then therefore you have it and you can sort of relax. It's about every day trying to be better, trying to make a restaurant and a business that is overly sustainable.
So what things do you do to make it sustainable?
One of the main things that we've really tried to do is focusing on British produce, and actually, you know, part of that is about sustainability and food miles. A massive part of it for us was also about sort of helping the British economy and the farming economy and our fisheries as well. But yeah, no, the idea...
I have a lot of farms near St Bart's, which is in the heart of the City of London.
Well, funnily enough, there's an amazing collective called Shrub Provisions, who we use a hell of a lot, who work with farmers all around East Sussex. So it makes a difference from flying it in from Kenya or somewhere else like that. But no, like a big part of it was, one, using British produce to cut down on food miles, but also helping sustain our farming industry.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next 3 hours, political commentator Lynn May, and also Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Any minute now, Reform UK Chief Whip Lee Anderson is taking to the stage before Nigel Farage at the Reform UK conference. You'll hear those speeches live in my show. Lee is set to declare the gloves are off as they vow to escalate campaigning efforts. Then coming up in the Great British Debate, I'll be asking, do you think Reform UK will be the next will win the next general election? In my niggle, I'll be taking on head what am I talking about? Head on, what's the name? Jess Phillips. And her comments, and also Keir Starmer. Is it all the failures with the grooming gangs? Then for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? There is a poll up on X. What do you think? Cast your vote. Difficult conversations as well. Sexual abuse advisor, survivor, ambassador at the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees, will be joining us. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you, and good afternoon to you. It's just gone 3 o'clock. Well, the top story this hour. The Prince of Wales and his wife have said they are shocked and saddened by the death of his former nanny's stepson in a vehicle attack in New Orleans. The 31-year-old, Edward Pettifer, was one of 14 people killed when a pickup truck ploughed through crowds on New Year's Day, injuring at least 35 others. The King has offered personal condolences to the Pettifer family, who say Edward was a wonderful son and a friend, adding they are devastated by the loss. Meanwhile, police say the suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, also fired shots before being killed by officers at the scene. The FBI confirmed an Islamic State flag was found in the vehicle, while President Biden linked the attack to terrorist motives. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage says the gloves are off, vowing to ramp up his campaigning in Kemi Badenoch's constituency today. It follows claims from the Conservative leader that Reform's online membership tracker was fake. That's despite several news outlets reporting the membership data was accurate. Speaking earlier at the Reform event in North West Essex, Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef poked fun at Badenoch.
We all know that we should be very grateful to Kemi. We should be very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, because in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more members than in any 24-hour period in our entire history. So can we please give a big reform round of applause to Kemi Badenoch?
GB News can exclusively reveal that the first boatload of 50 illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. A Border Force vessel picked up 50 migrants from their small boat early this morning and is currently on its way back to Dover. It comes after nearly 37,000 people made the treacherous journey in small boats just last year. The UK is braced for heavy snow and icy rain this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas. 2 amber and 2 yellow alerts have been issued by the Met Office across most of the country, with up to 30 centimetres of snow expected. Forecasters say power cuts are also likely and that vehicles could become stranded on roads as wintry conditions continue. Trains and flights could also be delayed or even cancelled. And a judge in the US has ordered Donald Trump to be sentenced next week in his New York hush money case. But he has suggested the US president-elect won't be jailed. In a surprise move, the sentencing has been set for 10th of January, just 10 days before the presidential inauguration. Trump's spokesperson called the case lawless and a witch hunt in a statement released after that date was announced. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Right, I put my teeth back in. Let's cross now to Chelmsford, where Reform UK Chief Whip Lee Anderson is speaking at his party conference.
I think I'm in with a chance. I want to be knighted. Let's face it, all I've got to do really in my constituency is increase crime, make sure the streets are unsafe, increase the amount of homelessness, and steal money off motorists. That's all I've got to do, and I'll get a knighthood. Oh, by the way, a massive congratulations this week for Mayor Khan, who's been knighted. Yes. Can we give him a big round of applause, please? Bit harsh. As you know, the Mayor of London and I are very good friends. And he is living proof that in politics, anything is possible. But let's not be too harsh on him, because he's one of the people that helped me be here today with you, the People's Army. You know what? In February last year, I made a few comments about the Mayor of London, which got me into a spot of bother with the Conservative Party. They took the whip away from me. Yeah. I was told I had to apologise. And I told them, there's no way I'm apologising to that man. He's given our city away. He's a disgrace and he should apologise. Now then, as soon as the Tory party took the side of Mayor Khan against me, I knew it was over. I knew there was no way back. And I also knew that Reform UK was my destiny. And I became Reform UK's first ever Member of Parliament. You can clap for that. But I tell you what, Conference, I never really envisaged a career in politics. I never thought I'd be an MP, yet in just a few years I was the Deputy Chairman of the Conservative Party, and now I'm the Chief Whip and a Member of Parliament for Ashfield, which, by the way, is the capital of common sense. And I feel so proud. It's amazing. It's a truly amazing experience to be in this party. And I feel like I'm part of a truly amazing party that's captured the hearts and minds of people, millions of people all around the country, good people like you. These people, by the way, are true British patriots, but they're not far right. We are just decent, hard-working people who love our country and want to leave our country in a better state than when we arrived. Nothing wrong with that. I know. I know there's huge pressure on us 5 Reform UK MPs in Parliament to take our country back, and that's what we're going to do. This is a battle, guys. It's a battle for the heart and soul of our great country. I love my country, and so does Reform UK, which is why we will never apologise for our history, our heritage, or our culture. Yeah? Go on. My message is clear. If you do not want to embrace our way of life, if you do not like our history, our heritage, our culture, and respect our laws, then clear off. How's that grab you? All right. Parliament keeps trying to give our country away, and we must together fight back. This useless Labour government wants to take more money off all of us and give it to other countries or to people arriving here illegally. Look at net zero, what a load of nonsense that is. It will make every one of us in this room poorer and colder, and it will affect the poorest in our society the most. Our businesses are already paying the most expensive electricity prices in the world, which is costing jobs. Meanwhile, China is leading the world in renewables, yet still opening coal-fired power stations. It's madness. We're closing coal-fired furnaces so we can no longer make virgin steel. Utter madness. This government is quite happy for us to import steel goods from all around the world, made with fossil fuels, but we refuse to make these same goods in this country. This is hypocrisy. It is staggering, and it will bankrupt our country unless we stop this madness. Yeah, it's true. It's madness. Not a million miles from me is Drax Power Station in North Yorkshire. This produces electricity. It used to burn coal from the nearby coal mine. But in this country, we decided to close the coal mine. And in our quest for net zero, we're now chopping trees down in North America, turning them into wooden pellets. We put them on diesel guzzling cargo ships, we ship them over the Atlantic, put them on diesel guzzling trains, and then set fire to them in Drax Power Station to produce electricity. And we say that's renewable energy. We're actually chopping trees down to make electricity, yet at the same time we're telling our children they must plant more trees. You could not make this rubbish up, could you? This nonsense is costing us £2 million a day in subsidies, whilst we've got pensioners freezing to death because of their winter fuel allowance stopped by this wicked, cruel, horrible Labour government. It gets worse, guys. Mad Miliband. Yeah, it's crackers. He thinks it's a good idea to spaff away £8 billion on GB Energy. He also thinks it's a good idea to waste £11.6 billion on foreign climate aid. We at Reform UK say no. This nonsense must end. This is our money, and it needs to be spent in our country on British people. Over the past few years, over 150,000 illegal migrants have entered our country, and most of them are young men. They're not fleeing a war. There's no war in France. But ask yourself this: what kind of men, if there was a war, what kind of men would leave women and children behind? I do not want these illegal migrants in my country, and only Reform UK will end this madness. True. But I tell you what, this Labour government are doing the impossible. They're making things worse. Who knew? But look who we've got running the country now. We've got free gear Kia. Or never hear Kia. We've got Rachel from accounts. We've got the no-brainer, Angela Rayner. And let's not forget that net zero lunatic Mad Miliband. Hey, there's one more. Our very own mastermind, David Lammy. He's a proper charmer, isn't he? Great man. So here at Reform UK, it's a little bit different. We've got Nigel Farage. We've got Richard Tice. Rupert Lowe. These are all successful businessmen and successful politicians. We've got Zia Youssef, our chairman. Our new treasurer, Nick Candy. And these, again, are successful businessmen. They know what they're doing. We've also got... you. We've also got Elon Musk. And President Trump as friends of our Nigel. And what do the Labour Party have as their mouthpieces? Carol Vorderman and David Lammy. David Lammy, you know what? There's over 6,000 villages in this country. And if we took every village idiot out of the villages and put them all in Tottenham, David Lammy would still be the village idiot. That'll be on front of Guardian tomorrow. Let me have a breath. The grooming gang scandal has cast a dark shadow on our country. Should be ashamed, really. Thousands of young girls raped and abused in northern towns. Councils, police and politicians have turned a blind eye, and every single one of these people should be put behind bars. Just this week, conference, Labour's Jess Phillips has said no to a public inquiry into child sex abuse in Oldham. And you must ask yourself the question, why? I think we all know the reason why. It's the same reason that the councils, police, social workers, social services and politicians have turned a blind eye in the past. They're worried about votes. That's what they're worried about. Think about it, young girls, vulnerable girls from broken homes, abused by gangs of men, and Labour refused to hold a public inquiry. They should hang their heads in shame. I could go on, guys, but have no fear, the Reform UK Rescue Party is here. We're going to do it. Let's cast our minds back to 12 months ago. We had less than 15,000 members. We was polling about 10%. We had no money. We had no members of Parliament. But now we've got nearly 170,000 members. We've got 5 MPs. We've got money in the bank. We've got a brilliant new chairman, a brilliant new treasurer. The brilliant Dame Andrea Jenkins is our mayoral candidate in Lincolnshire, which is true. Over 1,000 fully vetted council candidates for this year's local elections, which is amazing. But that's all been made possible, guys, because of you, the People's Army. So thank you very much for that. Yeah. But as our movement grows, so does the opposition. We've got opposition in the mainstream media, but have no fear. We've got our own social media, and GBNews always gives us a good hearing as well, so thank God for that. You know, last year, if anybody went to the Birmingham conference, you might have seen me rip up my TV licence reminder live on stage. And I did the same last night in Leicester, so apologies, guys. I have, because the bully boys have been round again to the door, the BBC bully boys, posting their nonsense, and so I've not got one to rip up today. But I will say this to all of you, and I'm not encouraging you to get rid of your licence, that's up to you, that's a personal choice. But I'm not paying one single penny more to pay the pension for perverts like Hugh Edwards. Conference, we have a mountain to climb. but we have all the momentum. We've got local elections this year, then Scottish and Welsh elections next year, and we must take the fight to every single ballot box in our great country. We, the People's Army, can do this, but we must stick together. You need to help us sign up new members, raise money, help us deliver leaflets, help us on our way to the path to victory, and then you can tell your children and your grandchildren that you were part of a movement that took our country back. Thank you very much. Thank you.
That was Lee Anderson. He's speaking live at Reform UK conference in Chelmsford, which is actually one of my hometowns. I was born in Newcastle, but Chelmsford is where I sort of grew up. Joining me now, Lynn May, and also...
Good old Alex.
Alex. We got him back, even though he's very irritating last time.
You love me, really.
No, but that was really, really lovely to hear, to be honest, because it was very uplifting. It was very vibrant. Lynn May, what did you make of what he was saying? I mean, he listed members of the Labour Party.
Yeah, I think it was refreshing. I think it was relatable. I think that they're saying many hard-hitting points that the country have been dying for someone to have the confidence to come out and say. They seem to be reading the room where the other parties have failed massively. The Conservatives had 14 years. Didn't listen to the people on various topics, especially as we've seen in the news recently on the grooming gangs. We're seeing a lot of posturing. They had their chance. Yeah. Labour, fair enough. People say, oh, give them a chance. Well, they're doing error after error after error.
Frightening.
Even recently, they're going to try and force us to get rid of all of our petrol, diesel cars, force us to buy, electric vehicles, which are not sustainable or good for the environment based on how they make the batteries. They're not reading the room. And we see now with the Reform Conference, again, they are speaking to the working man. And this whole idea, they're racist or they're not relatable to ethnic minorities, I think the tide is massively changing.
Well, it's not true. I mean, Zia Yusuf...
It's not true.
The people in the party...
Zia Yusuf is a British Muslim.
Exactly.
Well, he's bankrolling the party, though, isn't he? That's why he's there. That's why he's there. Do you think he'd be chairman if he wasn't bankrolling the party?
That's not the point she's making.
The point I'm making...
It's hardly far right when your chairman is Muslim.
Is Muslim. And previously, Ben Habib, even though he's not a part of the party...
Yeah, he's pushed out.
He still supports many of the potential policies. And he, again, is a Pakistani.
OK, let's get your thoughts. Alex Kent.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the room there and I don't think this actually represents modern Britain, right? A lot of people are frustrated with the Tory party, and I think over the next few years, when they actually look at reform in a lot more detail, they're going to start to see the cracks. I don't think it's the diverse party everyone says. I don't think they're going to be the saviour. I actually think a lot of moderate Brits are going to look at them more closely and realise that actually, apart from immigration, the rest of it is just fluster. So, yeah, I'm not concerned about it.
Have you looked at that manifesto? Because I've got it here, and people that are not necessarily that savvy on politics, I've shown them this, and they think it's fantastic.
All right, well, listen, Nigel Farage is about to speak. He's walking through the crowds. This is the reception that he's getting. We are live in Chelmsford for the Reform UK conference, and Nigel Farage is making his way to the stage. So I've been to lots of the conferences. I didn't go to the Labour one, I couldn't get tickets, but I went to Conservatives, and I went to Reform as well. I would have liked to have gone to the others as well. And I have to say, from what I saw, there was a lot of energy. The Conservative one was, it rained and it was very dull. Sadly. Right, so Nigel Farage is about to speak.
Wow. What a fantastic reception. Thank you very, very much indeed. Now, the energy, the enthusiasm, the optimism that has been generated by you supporting this political party is something we have not seen in British politics for decades. And I tell you something, this is only the very beginning of something that's going to be huge. Absolutely huge. Now, in the middle of December, I said to the team, right, I want to do 4 regional conferences. We want to do the East Midlands, we want to do the East, we want to do the South East and the North West. Let's get them in the diary. And we booked these venues, each of which seats 1,000 people, open to members only, and within 48 hours, every single one was full. Which means there are lots of members who couldn't get tickets to come today. And we apologise to them, but what we did last night, and what we're doing right now, is we are live streaming this on all of the social media platforms. Can you believe that at last night's Reform UK meeting in Leicester, over 900,000 people watched our live stream? Unbelievable. So I'm not just speaking to you guys in the room, I'm speaking to all of you at home who are watching this now. Huge numbers of you, many of whom have not yet joined Reform. But you'll see on the screen at the bottom how to do it. I urge you, come and join us. We're growing, we're booming, we're only 150 away from reaching an unbelievable 170,000 paid up members. Incredible. And it's been the most amazing few weeks. 50,000 people joined us in the last 2 weeks of the year. And a lot of our team have not had a Christmas break at all. We've been pushing on relentlessly. And I've been so overjoyed with it. It's been amazing. And yet, someone decided that they do their best to spoil it. A ranting, raving conspiracy theorist took to social media at about 5 o'clock on Boxing Day. They put out a 5-part tweet that was intemperate, contained misspellings, and false accusations that somehow I was behaving fraudulently, and that the ticker, you know the ticker that shows the live number of members? I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and check the ticker just to see how we're getting on. No, this ranting conspiracy theorist said that the ticker had been pre-programmed to go up and that our new members were fake. And the extraordinary thing is that these accusations were made by the leader of His Majesty's loyal opposition, one Kemi Badenoch. Now, it just so happens that today in this room, we are in North West Essex. We're in Kemi Badenoch's constituency right now as I speak. Now, I don't take kindly to being accused of being a fraudster. I've been called many things over the years, horrible things, and some of them true. But I am not dishonest. I never have been dishonest. I never will be dishonest. And I feel pretty offended by what she said. So the question has been, after I asked her to apologise, after we proved to mainstream media that our figures were correct, no apology has been forthcoming. So I've been deciding, what should I do about this? Sue her. To sue somebody, you have to prove actual harm. What she's done is given us a massive favour and thousands of new members. So, I've gone for a different approach, and on the 31st of this month, I'll be holding a meeting for the North West Essex members of Reform, and there's now 400 of them in this constituency. They can come along, meet me, they'll all get a free photograph, and I'll do a big group picture, which I'll send to the current MP for this seat, to show her who the fake members are. And Kemi, because you've been so rude, so unpleasant, the accusations you made against me are so wrong, I promise you, we as a party now will put time, money, resource. This will become a target seat for us at the next general election. Now, I said already, we're optimistic, we're bullish, we're upbeat, but we are also realistic. We realise just how much trouble this country is in. We are in societal decline. Our communities are breaking down. Our sense of the importance of family is being deliberately devalued. Our concept of nation, what it is, what it stands for today, what our forebears did to make it what it is, has been under direct attack from the educational establishment now for many, many years. And it's why when I decided to come back into the fray in early June this year, that I said we'd base this party on family, community, and country, because they're the things that matter to me, they're the things that matter to you, that's what matters to most people in our country. But a remarkable thing is happening. The millennials, you know the ones, they don't like to work. They think the state can give them a living. They talk about work-life balance, work from home. Oh, the ticker. And the ticker says 170,000. Kemi, are you watching on the live stream? Did we deliberately fiddle it so that it happened during my speech? Did it hell? It's happening, folks, because this party is on the march. That is perfect. And yet, despite all of that, there is a younger generation coming through, Gen Z as they're known, who are turning their backs on what left-wing teachers are telling them, who are now filled with new ambition and new hope. And you know something? They too are joining our party in their thousands every single week. And that's really exciting news. But I think they called it the grooming gangs scandal. It's not. It's the mass rape scandal on a scale that is difficult to imagine. Already over 50 towns and cities in which this happened have been identified. And who's to say the problem isn't even more acute than that? The worst of it is that at no point in time have we been told the whole truth. Little dribbles of news have come here and there over the years. We need a full, open, national, public inquiry so that everyone in Britain knows the truth about what happened. So that everybody in Britain understands that mass open-door immigration without assimilation is a complete cultural disaster for our country, and we're the only ones with the guts to stand up and say it. But what is even more shocking, is the extent of the cover-up. The police willfully not doing their job. Social services deliberately not doing their job. Covers up by local councillors, local mayors. And yes, Jess Phillips the other week, refusing a public inquiry, but, and here's the point, when Kemi Badenoch calls for a full public inquiry, has she forgotten that her own Conservative government refused that as well? And whether you look at the grooming gangs scandal, whether you look at the cost of living, particularly energy, that is being forced upon the people of this country by literally insane net zero policies, wherever you look at the scale of mass legal immigration into Britain, and I personally believe that a 10 million increase in the population in the last 20 years has devalued the lives of everybody in Britain, whether it's access to the health service, whether it's the availability of housing, whether it's infrastructure, and just literally trying to travel around the country on our roads. Our lives have been devalued by this population explosion. Whether it's the tax burden, and the Conservatives put up the tax burden to the highest since 1947, and under Rachel Reeves, goodness only knows, least of all her. And I must say, Lee Anderson, when he stood up in the House of Commons at PMQs and called her Rachel from accounts, I reckon Lee got it about right, don't you? And whether it's the illegal scam of 150,000 people, nearly all young, undocumented males coming into our country. And by the way, did you see today that if you're an illegal migrant in Britain, even if you've been refused asylum and you turn up at A&E, you will be seen within 15 minutes. We've engineered a situation where those that come here illegally, and some of whom who harbour thoughts that are going to be bad for our nation. In fact, I would even say what's happening in the Channel is a national security emergency and should be treated as such. And yet, they'll get housing, they'll get pocket money, they'll get 3 square meals a day and get to see a doctor within 15 minutes. Oh, and they also get free dental care. How many people here get free dental care? I bet not very many. But here's the point. All of these great problems that confront our country, it is frankly irrelevant whether we have a Labour or a Conservative government, because whatever Labour are doing now that you may object to, they're only continuing from what the Conservatives did and led us to in the last 14 years. This literally is the uni party. There is nothing to tell between them. And the only political party who genuinely believe that through leadership, through conviction, through courage, and having people with real world experience, yes, there are people in reform who've had jobs, can you believe it? We are the only people with the courage and the vision to turn this country around. And I'll tell you, I believe that in their millions, people in our great nation are waking up to that fact. Now, the main reason for booking all of these meetings early in the year was to get our relatively new party ready for the May the 1st county council elections. And this part of the world, we've got some big targets. Cambridgeshire, Essex, Suffolk, Norfolk, I could go on. These are all county elections on May the 1st, in which we can do incredibly well. In fact, I believe we can even win some of them. But now I hear dark rumours that maybe the elections will be cancelled this year. Now, I find this hard to believe, as only dictators cancel elections. But then, given Keir Starmer's tendencies, it perhaps wouldn't be as surprising as all that. And it would seem that the governing Conservatives in these counties are so afraid of reform that they would love to see these elections postponed for a year or two. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but what I do know is we're building branches. What I do know is more and more good men and women are coming forward and putting their names down to stand for us at local government level, whatever tier that may be. We will continue with these events, with these meetings, with the vetting procedures, as if the elections are going to go ahead on May the 1st this year. If they don't, I will certainly be outraged at the suspension of our democratic process. But you know what? It'll give us even more time to professionalise further. And if we have to wait a year or two longer, we'll absolutely smash them to pieces when those elections come. And for all of this, I draw great inspiration from a friend of mine, political friend of mine. He happens to live 3,000 miles away. He's got a lovely house in Florida, you know. But I think what Trump has done, when you think what they did to him, you know, fake news, mainstream media, lawfare, all of those things, yet this very resilient, tough guy has come through it all and achieved a stunning victory in those elections in America on November the 5th. And of course, beside him, he's got Elon, who is a proper hero, who believes in free speech. And free speech doesn't mean you agree with every single word that everyone says, but it means you have a platform and the right to excuse it, which is maybe why Meta have finally got rid of Sir Nick Clegg, who did his best to damage free speech in his career there. If Elon Musk is able to cut back the size of the administrative state, he will do us in this country and us in this party the most enormous favour. The more money we take from the private sector, the more we damage enterprise, and the fewer people want to get involved in taking risk and setting up their own companies. And I'm alarmed, deeply alarmed, not just that the super rich are leaving our shores, but lots of 30-somethings have decided the business environment here is too difficult. The regulations are too great, and they're leaving for Australia, Dubai, America, Portugal, Italy. And we're putting more and more money into a public sector, which, whilst it may have many good people, gives us lower and lower productivity. The more money we put in, the less we get out. It's not working. We're being strangled as a country because we are in economic decline, and be in no doubt. And I know the biggest single factor for that is the exploding population. The more immigration goes up, the poorer individually we get in Britain. We can solve that. We can solve the immigration problem, but we have to sort out the returns we get in the National Health Service. We have to sort out what the Quangos do. We have to have the courage to take the knife to all of it. And I believe that Elon is going to set the mark. He's going to set the mark for all of us in America. I hope and pray that he does. And if he does, it'll give us absolutely the right ideas going ahead. We believe in our country. We believe in our people. We're proud of our past. We know who we are. But most important of all, we know where we need to go to get our country back to where it needs to be. You've all joined our party, and I'm grateful to you. But we need more, folks. We need you to do your bit. We need you, please, join your local branch. Get engaged. Get involved. Put some leaflets out in your street. Talk to people wherever you go. Whether it's the bingo hall, the golf club, the pub. The pub. I love the pub. Although not so much this month, because I'm having a rest. I'm doing dry January. Oh, God, I might get sacked as leader. I'm doing dry January, but if I get past the inauguration in Washington, that will be a miracle. But the point is, we need you out there evangelizing for us, encouraging people, making them realize if you vote reform, you will get reform. That if the silent majority speak, we can win the next general election, and we can. We're 50% up on vote share from where we were on the 4th of July. If we do the same again, we will win the next general election. So, are you ready? Are you ready to commit to helping us? Then please, when you leave here this afternoon, at the back of the room, you'll see tables for each of the counties that make up the East. Give them your name. They'll put you directly in touch with the local branch that has been set up there. If one hasn't been set up, please help us do it. And don't think that it's too difficult to stand for county council or district council or unitary authority or whatever it may be. We need men and women who believe in what they're doing, who believe in our nation, to stand up with us. So please, when you leave here, go to the relevant tables. Please sign up. Please help us. Thank you for coming along today. Thank you to the hundreds of thousands watching us on live stream. And come on, let's make 2025 the year we make Britain great again.
Nigel Farage, they're speaking at the Reform UK conference in Chelmsford. Well, joining me, Alex Cairns and also Lynn May. We've been listening to some of the comments that Nigel made. We'll go through some of the things that he said. Also, we had Lee Anderson on earlier as well. Now, Nigel talked about optimism. The conference, he put out 4 conferences. They were fully booked. And last night, there was a speech. Over 900k watched the live stream. I know it was on a few TV channels as well. It was also on GBNews. So, Alex Cairns, whilst he was saying certain things, when he said about the ticker, 170,000 members, you were shaking your head and laughing. Why?
Well, because, you know, the other political leaders are not going to be walking around with some ticker looking at the party membership numbers.
Well, Badenoch clearly was.
I know that we discussed this last week, and I don't.
She was, wasn't she? Because she said he was making up. The ticker wasn't real and all that.
I don't know if she was. I think so.
No, she did. She tweeted on X.
What, she was walking around with the ticker?
No, but you said...
How would she know, yeah?
You said that no other party members would be watching the numbers go up. And I said, but Kemi Badenoch was, clearly, because she tweeted on X.
Well, the tweet that I saw from both of them, I think it was ridiculous. Clearly, she shouldn't have said it. I don't know what's going to happen from a legal perspective on that. But the broader point is, it's very much always about him, isn't it? It's the Farage show, you know? He wants it to be all about him. As far as I'm concerned, it's still limited company, so people are basically paying money to make him richer, you know? He doesn't really care, let's be honest, right? It's all about Farage, it's all the Farage show, and there's nothing new or substantial in that speech. It's all about immigration, all about people coming over in the boats. There's lots of complex issues in the country, and while he's in opposition, he's going to make all of these big claims. The RFS actually looked at that manifesto. There's £90 billion there, which they think is unrealistic kind of tax increases that they have to make. So,
well,
you know,
if we were to add up the increases in tax for Labour, I know it's well over 70 already. And the point that Nigel made was that in order to kind of fix things in this country, immigration is actually strangling it, in the sense that our services, everything, the NHS, everything is overwhelmed by the numbers, legal or illegal. He has got a point, hasn't he?
No, I don't agree. I actually think that the NHS is struggling because post-COVID, there's been a big backlog. A lot of people, whether it's migrants that come over or Brits, majority of the country obviously are Brits, not migrants, abuse the system. We see too many people going to A&E. We know that they shouldn't. They should go to primary care. Primary care is in a mess. So the idea that Farage is going to stand up and say that everything in the problem, all the problems in the country to do with migration is ridiculous, and everyone knows that.
All right, Lynn May.
I think with regards to, let's go back to the ticker really quickly. Any viable company uses KPIs, and in order to use key performance indicators, you'll go into any company and see stats, whether it's you're going high, you're going low. What's wrong with him actually sharing with everyone, we're becoming a success? There are more and more people joining, and this is evidence of the hunger to move away from that two-party system that we've known, Conservative Labour, Conservative Labour. Over the last few decades, we've lost faith in them. So irrespective of you saying, you know, he's just saying all this, nothing's new, people want something new. And until they come in and show us what they can do, you can't really say all of what he's saying makes no sense. And if you look at, I work in housing, and the amount of migration that's happened, I'm for migration. My parents weren't born here, I wasn't born here. However, there has to be controlled migration. If you are coming to this country, you must pay your taxes, then we can use those taxes to bolster infrastructure. You cannot be just waltzing in on boats, using the NHS, paying millions that we pay. Put it this way, there is a 10-year waiting list for people in temporary accommodation, British paying working individuals that have to prop up these people in hotels. Do you think that's fair? This is not even about a race thing. Like I said, many of the people that I know who are black and Asian have come to this country to work hard. Those that are coming in, well, how can we facilitate that consistently? Do you believe that we can?
The reason that
believe that we can?
The reason we've got a problem with housing is because we're not building on the Greenbelt. Everyone has this whole silly thing.
How many houses do you think we need to be building to accommodate the situation?
Yeah, far more than we're building currently. But
we could never, ever build enough houses to accommodate the people coming in by boat and the mass immigration on the level that was required, even if we did use the Greenbelt, which would to be sustainable. And also the infrastructure has to be supported by it. So that's the reality. Do you think it's fair, Lynn, may I ask you a question, do you think it's fair that these people are just coming in and they haven't contributed at all to the society, but we are paying millions every day for this?
They're going to be contributing over a period of time. When they first arrive here, of course, that there's a big backlog. It takes them a long time to be actually processed. They're in those hotels because for a long time the Conservative government couldn't get that process under control. Eventually, these people are not just going to stay in hotels the whole life. They want to come here, have a better life, and go on to be net contributors to the UK.
How do you know that,
but there's no evidence to suggest that they're going to stay in hotels for years on end, are they?
But the point is, many are trying to claim asylum, but they're turning out to be economic migrants, but of low-skilled workers. So what that does is that pushes down the salaries. We've got some of the worst salaries here in Britain. And who does that affect? It actually affects ethnic minorities as well and the white working class. This is not some conversation, you know, propping up the white middle-class system. It's nothing to do with that. I speak to people every day in housing, in welfare to work. They're the ones that they're trying to get a normal job, but then all these people that come in working cash in hand, many of these people in hotels work cash in hand, and they're undercutting the system. It's not fair for the people that are already here. We cannot be seen to be picking up everybody's issue across the world. Yes, we are involved in many wars, and we want to stop those too. But at the same time, immigration is a real problem towards our infrastructure. Secondly, he didn't just talk about immigration. I was one that actually criticised the Brexit party initially because I did believe they were one policy party. But they're talking about growth, they're talking about business, they're talking about taxes. Grooming gangs, they're talking about all these different things. If you look recently at Labour, we have no forecast of growth whatsoever. So you're talking about, OK, let's... you consider yourself to be a bit more left of politics. In order for you to be left, you agree in higher taxes. How can we tax people more if there's no growth? There's no plan of any growth in the Labour Party. What would you suggest to that?
Look, They've been in power 6 months. It's not going to happen overnight. They're trying to fix the NHS, the Workers' Rights Bill, the Renters' Bill. They're looking at infrastructure projects. They're looking at simplifying the railway system. The idea that it's a simple thing of cut migration, then everything will be fine. The private
I've moved away from the migration conversation. I'm talking about growth.
But Len, the private sector for a long time has put vacancies out. Brits have not wanted to apply. Whether we can have a broader conversation about salaries, I agree in some sectors, definitely people are not paid enough. They should be paid more. But if they need the vacancies, businesses are not going to just stop and wait because the Brits don't want to apply for the roles. So, yes, they go to potentially non-Brits that want to do those jobs.
Well, how about they make the jobs a little bit more appealing? Because most of the time it's jobs in care and very low-paid jobs. And those companies have been drunk on cheap labour for many years, so they're so used to it. It's about time some of those companies paid people the right amount so people can live in this country, who actually live in this country. We can't have big corporations just paying cheap wages to people who've come from abroad. That's almost like slave labour, surely. You surely wouldn't support that.
No, it's not. I wouldn't say slave labour.
Well, it is almost. I mean, it's so low wage that most of them couldn't really live in this country. So they often live in multiple HMOs where there's lots of people living there.
But it's interesting. It's not just companies. When even you think about the British public, I know lots of people, when they think about getting a tradesperson in, they literally are thinking about the price that they want to pay. It's not just about the government. The government can't interfere in everything, you know? OK,
well, they shouldn't interfere in everything, and we'd like them to interfere a little bit less. Alex Cairns and Austin May, thank you very much. Stay with me. Next, my niggle on whistleblowers' comments. Of course, that Sir Keir Starmer is as guilty as anyone over the failures to tackle the grooming gangs. Stay with me. I'll also have a quick chat with Jess Phillips and address her head on. But now, let's get an update with your weather.
Expect a warm front, moving from the kitchen right through to the rest of the house. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. It's a cold weekend to come for most, with outbreaks of rain, snow and ice. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of England and Wales through this weekend. So there could be some tricky travelling conditions worth checking before leaving the house through this weekend. Low pressure moving in from the southwest, bumping into colder air, leading to that risk of snow and ice, and already rain across the southwest where temperatures are rising, but snow across Wales, the Midlands, down into London, northwards through the evening time, pushing into northern England, eastern England as we head into the early hours. Outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. By the end of the night, temperatures under clear skies well below freezing, -7, -8 Celsius. Icy stretches, but mild across the south. Outbreaks of heavy rain developing here, but it is really the focus of the snow. We do have rain, sleet and snow across northern Scotland. Icy stretches first thing Sunday morning across the country as temperatures are widely below freezing. Icy stretches Northern Ireland, but it's really parts of northern England, North Wales, where the snow will be heavy and treacherous, perhaps up to 40 centimetres over the higher ground in places. Rain further south, but leading to the risk of some flooding as the snow melts here. Quite breezy too as the rain continues through the day, but it is really the focus of the snow, particularly across northern England and southern Scotland as we go through the day and afternoon on Sunday. Some brighter skies trying to push into the far northwest, but temperatures really struggling here, not much above freezing, but very mild across the south and southeast here, temperatures 13 or 14 Celsius with that southerly breeze. The risk of flooding into the evening time as further rain is expected across some southern and western parts. The snow continuing parts of Scotland right through into Monday as well. And it stays cold next week for many, temperatures below average with the further risk of snow at times. See you soon.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£50,000 in tax-free cash is like having over £4,000 each month to play with for a whole year. And it could be yours in the biggest Great British giveaway so far. That could be a holiday each month, your mortgage covered, or just the ability to send some of those day-to-day financial stresses packing. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Joined by international life coach Cheryl Findlay, who has joined forces with a Liverpool business owner, Kate Hill, of sustainable sportswear brand Lola Star, to empower women and inspire women across the nation. And to celebrate this partnership with the new Lola Star collection, the two will be hosting an exclusive event next Saturday.
The sportswear brand was launched after, well, your story. You lost how much weight?
So 16 stone, which is over £220, which
wow.
I know is quite significant. But during that kind of decade-long journey, I learned a lot about myself, and I learned a lot about what it takes to be successful, to be happy, to be well, and to just live an incredible life every day.
Are you giving them goals to work towards or helping them structure their life?
Yeah, so I don't give out goals, absolutely not. It's all about whatever an individual wants. So what we do to begin with is we understand, like, where are you now? Where are you thriving? Where do you feel really happy and excited in your life? And what's lacking? Like, where would you like to feel better? Where would you like to improve? And then we take it from there.
I'd love to take that on board. I'd love to be my true self and fulfil my potential. So have you got any practical tips on how to do that?
Yeah, so we start with clarity, right? Like, you need to know, it's such a busy, fast-paced world we live in. There's so much sensory overload. You know, it'd be so easy to be distracted. So we need to kind of quiet all that noise down and start with, where do I want to focus? Pick 2 or 3 things. Where do I want to focus? And then we define the goal. What would I like that area of my life to look, not just look like, but feel like? And then we take it from there. So that's where you would start. I actually had a cancer diagnosis in 2019.
Oh.
And I just decided if I was going to be lucky enough to be on the other side of it, I wasn't going to play small anymore.
GB News, the people's...
Hello, good afternoon and welcome to GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's 4 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. For the next few hours, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next few hours, political commentator Lynn May. No, that's not Lynn May. And Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Coming up in my niggle, I'll be tackling Jess Phillips' refusal for an inquiry head-on as whistleblower Maggie Oliver called Sir Keir Starmer guilty as anyone over failures to tackle grooming gangs. So, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now. And moments ago, Nigel Farage took to the stage at the Reform UK conference. He's declared the gloves are off.
I would even say what's happening in the Channel is a national security emergency and should be treated as such.
Nigel will be joining me live in about half an hour. You won't want to miss it. Then, coming up, my Great British Debate, I'm asking, do you think Reform UK will win the next general election? And in Difficult Conversations, I'll be joined by sexual abuse survivor and ambassador at the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees. But before we get started, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you and good afternoon to you. Just coming up to 2 minutes past 4. Well, let's start with Nigel Farage, who has received a standing ovation at Reform UK's conference in Chelmsford after the party hit 170,000 members mid-speech. A live ticker showed that milestone as Farage addressed the audience, rejecting claims of dishonesty over membership figures. Take a listen.
Oh, the ticker. And the ticker says 170,000. Kemi, are you watching on the live stream? Did we deliberately fiddle it so that it happened during my speech? Did it, hell? It's happening, folks, because this party is on the march.
Well, that follows claims from the Conservative leader, Kemi Badenoch, that Reform's online membership tracker was, she said, fake. That's despite several news outlets now reporting the membership data was accurate. Farage told supporters he was offended by those accusations of being a fraudster, saying he's never been dishonest and never will be. He's also revealed 900,000 people tuned in online to the previous conference in Leicester yesterday. Speaking earlier at the Reform event in the northwest of Essex, Reform UK chairman Zia Youssef poked fun at Badenoch.
We all know that we should be very grateful to Kemi. We should be very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, because in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more members than in any 24-hour period in our entire history. So can we please give a big Reform round of applause to Kemi Badenoch?
In other news, the Prince of Wales has said he and his wife Catherine are shocked and saddened by the death of his former nanny's stepson in a vehicle attack in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer was one of 14 people killed when a pickup truck ploughed through crowds on New Year's Day, injuring at least 35 others. His Majesty the King has also offered personal condolences to the Pettifer family, who say Edward was a wonderful son and a friend, adding they're devastated by the loss. Meanwhile, police in the United States say the suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, also fired shots before being killed by officers at the scene. The FBI has since confirmed an Islamic State flag was found in the vehicle, with President Joe Biden linking the attacks to terrorist motives. GB News can exclusively reveal today that the first boatload of 50 illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel. A Border Force vessel picked up 50 migrants from their small boat early this morning and is on its way back to Dover. It comes after nearly 37,000 people made the treacherous journey in small boats last year. To the weather, and UK is bracing for heavy snow and icy rain this weekend, with the Met Office warning there could be considerable disruption in some areas. 2 amber and 2 yellow alerts have been issued by the Met Office across most of the country, with up to 30 centimetres of snow expected. Forecasters say power cuts are also likely and that vehicles could become stranded on roads as wintry conditions continue, and trains and flights could also be delayed. And in the US, a judge has ordered Donald Trump to be sentenced next week in his New York hush money case, but he has suggested the US president-elect won't be jailed. In a surprise move, the sentencing has been set for the 10th of January, just 10 days before the inauguration. Trump's spokesperson has called the case lawless and a witch hunt in a statement released after that date was announced. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Nana and her monologue.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Good afternoon. It is fast approaching 6 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. This is utterly horrendous and heartbreaking, where people are more concerned with whether or not Elon Musk should be getting involved in British politics than the point he's actually making. If people can be jailed for hurty words or words that incite violence without actually being violent themselves, then people can be jailed for words or actions that result in harm to others. And in my view, both the Conservatives and Labour are guilty. Our 2 main political parties both washed their hands of a government-led inquiry into grooming gangs. And had it not been for ex-detective Maggie Oliver, who helped expose the failure to tackle paedophile gangs in Rochdale, I doubt much would have happened about it. Maggie blew the lid open on the Rochdale grooming gang scandal, which comprised of mainly Pakistani Muslim males sexually abusing white girls. This is important because, and it's an important fact, because part of the reason why the authorities were not forthcoming about reporting it was because many of those who could have were afraid of being called racists. And now pressure is mounting on the government to deliver a public inquiry into the Oldham scandal. Whistleblower Maggie Oliver said that she had no faith in the Prime Minister's desire to get to the bottom, to get to the truth, after Jess Phillips, the Minister for Safeguarding, although I'm not sure who else she's actually looking out for other than herself, said that it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. While acknowledging the strength of feeling for a further inquiry, the Safeguarding Minister insisted that Oldham should take its own approach, thereby leaving it in the hands of Oldham Council, who themselves have requested a government-led inquiry to get justice for the victims. Leader of Oldham Council said, "Since October, we have been working on setting up that independent inquiry." Went on to say, liaising with Oldham survivors and Telford Council, which conducted a similar inquiry. Well, it makes no sense, which brings me to the conclusion that there is something to hide. Surely you'd want to get to the bottom of it, as it turns out, if it's somewhat of an epidemic. It's not just Rochdale and Oldham where these types of grooming gangs are rife. It's across the country, from Yeovil to Glasgow. I counted at least 50 locations. How Jess Phillips, a so-called safeguarding minister, can say that with a straight face, as if there's nothing to see here, is beyond me. If she genuinely thinks that, then she's not fit for purpose in her role. This story isn't going to disappear. And it turns out that this man, Sir Keir Starmer, was head of the CPS at the time. Now, I'm not suggesting for a minute that there is any wrongdoing. In fact, many report that Keir was behind getting some form of justice, but his name seems to crop up in so many of these cases. Shadow Safeguarding Minister Alicia Kearns warned that rape camps, which is how she terms it, are hiding in plain sight across Britain.
Oldham Council themselves have put their hands up and said, we can't do this ourselves if we are to give victims and survivors the justice they want, and if we are to protect girls still in our communities. And if a local authority is saying that, it is for the government to listen and to say, right, we will step in, we will help you. These are rape camps that are hiding in plain sight across our country, and we have to do better by our children.
Yet they were in government and they were the ones in charge at the time. I mean, this didn't happen overnight, and they too rejected an inquiry at the time. Now, Elon Musk, the world's richest man, criticised Sir Keir Starmer over his handling of the scandal during the 5 years that Keir spent as the Director of Public Prosecutions. Elon said the Prime Minister was complicit in the worst mass crime in the history of Britain. West Streeting said Elon was misinformed. So what are they all afraid of? Jess? Yes, you, Jess Phillips. This is not going to go away. Nice try. This is a national scandal, and the British public want answers. But before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up today. For my Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? I've got a poll-up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now. And moments ago, Nigel Farage took to the stage at the Reform UK conference. He said that the mass arrival of migrants across the Channel was a complete cultural disaster for our country.
I would even say what's happening in the Channel is a national security emergency and should be treated as such.
Well, I'll be joined by Nigel in about half an hour. You won't want to miss that. And as Luke Littler makes history as the youngest winner of the World Darts Championship, I'll be speaking to his coach. Stay with me. That's coming up. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments, gbnews.com/your say. So let's talk grooming gangs now. Former advisor to Yvette Cooper and crime and policing commentator Danny Shaw joins me now. Danny, so...
Good afternoon, Nana.
Good afternoon. Really good to talk to you. Now, the grooming gangs, you would think it was only in one location, but it wasn't. Of course, we knew about Rochdale, but now Oldham, and we've checked, and there are about 50 other locations around the country where this is something that is going on. Shocking. Why do you think, what would be the reason for Jess Phillips not to have a national inquiry, really? Because it's not just one location. This is happening across the country now.
Well, she was asked whether there should be an inquiry that the government should set up into the scandal in Oldham. And she said that that should be for the local authorities in Oldham to do, because she felt that that would carry more legitimacy. And I'm sympathetic to that view. And I also think you have to remember that there was an inquiry into what happened in Oldham. It was commissioned in 2019 and it reported back in 2022. It was a very thorough piece of work. It produced a report of around 200 pages, and it concluded that people of Oldham have been failed by Greater Manchester Police and by the council, that there were structural flaws, but there was no evidence of widespread child sexual abuse. And this looked at alleged grooming in council homes, in shisha bars, and by taxi drivers. So that was an inquiry that reported that took, quite considerable amount of time. I'm skeptical. I was going to say I'm skeptical about the need for another inquiry. We've had that investigation. We've also had the independent child sexual abuse investigation across England and Wales that took 7 years, that cost £200 million, that produced 19 reports covering 15 investigations, including allegations of child sexual abuse within ethnic minority communities, and including looking in detail at what happened in Rochdale. So there are lessons to be learned from those inquiries and reports, 20 recommendations made by that independent inquiry. Let's crack on and implement the recommendations from those inquiries and take action rather than setting up another inquiry. That's my view.
But then she said that the council should conduct that inquiry, despite the fact that the inquiry that was conducted showed failings within the council. So what would be the point of her saying that? She's saying, no, let the council do it themselves internally. That doesn't make any sense to me. If she knows, and she, I'm presuming, would have read the last inquiry in 2019, that it had said that Oldham Council, there were many failings. And even the council themselves are saying, look, we need someone to look into this nationally.
Well, look, I mean, there might be an argument for that, but, I do think that in government you have to balance the competing demands that are made to set up inquiries, not just in this aspect, but, right across the board. People will be wanting public inquiries into all sorts of scandals or allegations or misconduct or issues that are of concern. And you, as a minister, have to decide which ones take priority, which ones have been looked into, and what you can actually do in the future to stop this happening again. And I think she's taken the view, look, we're not going to step in and set up the inquiry. If you want to do it locally. We've had inquiries already, as I've pointed out. The time is to take action. I don't think more money should be spent on legal teams and on lawyers, looking at these issues over months, probably years, when actually what's needed is firstly police investigations to bring the perpetrators to justice, and secondly implementing the recommendations of the work that has already been undertaken. 20 recommendations from that 7-year child sexual abuse inquiry. Let's crack on and implement those recommendations.
But they're not mutually exclusive. You can run an inquiry and also deal with the outcome from the previous one. You can do these things concurrently together. They should do all the things. I mean, I'm surprised nothing has really happened and that these grooming gangs seem to be almost an epidemic. It's not just one location, which is why I would suggest a national inquiry to find out why, because these are connected. I doubt that these are just single spurs. I suspect these are connected. So whatever the inquiry did, I doubt it did a thorough enough job. But for her to deflect and say, oh, it should just go back to the council, is actually quite shocking. And I'm not so sure what she's offering other than that. She's not offering anything else, is she?
Well, I think she's restating the position that the Conservatives came to as well in 2022. Amanda Soloway was the safeguarding minister then. She was also asked to set up a national inquiry, and she also took the view that it should be set up locally if that was to be the case.
What, despite the fact that the inquiry had said that the council themselves were a failure?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no simple answer to this, Nana. I mean, in an ideal world, you could have inquiries into all sorts of issues. I think you have to decide where your priorities are. I think we know enough about some of the failings to try and take action to prevent it happening in future. I think the police have a role to play here. I know there's been some good work by some police forces to tackle grooming gangs and to bring perpetrators to justice. And that probably needs, you know, a bit of a rocket booster under that work to ensure it happens. And I'd be more concerned about going after the gangs, looking at the allegations, building a case, taking people to court, rather than employing lots and lots of lawyers to set up an inquiry, which will just, you know, end up with recommendations in 2 or 3 years' time, which will probably just gather dust on a shelf.
Well, I don't see why they can't do both. I don't see why they can't do both. I would be putting an inquiry, a national inquiry, into the entire grooming gang scandal, which is across this country, not in just one place. And I'd be joining the dots rather than one little inquiry with one council and one over there and one over there and one over... I'd be doing a national inquiry that looks into all of it. And whilst I'm doing that, I'd be punishing those who are currently perpetrating it. So that wouldn't be going away either. I don't know why they can't do both. Danny Shaw, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. He's really good to talk to him. He's a political commentator, policing commentator. Right, 18 minutes after 4 o'clock. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online, and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Next, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs?
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Sunday with Michael Portillo from 11, only on GB News.
The birth rate in Britain has sunk to 1.49, well below replacement rate. Yet policies pursued by both major parties are still to spend huge sums to encourage parents back to their work when their children are still at preschool age. Should we not be helping parents to spend longer at home, asks his new book, whilst recognising that in an age of sex equality, the question is fraught. David Goodhart joins me now.
We undervalue the domestic realm, and that has led to lots of the most negative trends in British society. About half of children in the UK are not living with both of their biological parents by the age of 14. We have, of families with dependent children, about 24-25% are single-parent households. You know, mainly mothers, and they're doing, you know, valiant work. But of course, it means you don't have the investment in children that a two-parent family can give. I mean, the reason why it's a care dilemma is that a lot of these negative trends are also kind of intimately related to positive things, like that movement of women into work, the fact that women are no longer so defined by marriage and motherhood, the fact that women and men are freer to leave unhappy relationships. And the challenge for modern liberal societies is, you know, how we hold on to those freedoms but get a better balance, which means, I think, investing more in the domestic realm. We spend a total now of £9 billion on childcare subsidies. Why not give that subsidy direct to young parents so they could then choose whether to subsidise themselves, as it were, to be able to afford to stay at home, or to give it to a nursery, or to give it to granny, or to, you know, to keep it in the home.
GB News.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us.
We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you. Hello there, I'm Eamon Holmes. Thank you for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Twenty-one minutes after 4 o'clock. Welcome. If you just tuned in, where have you been? It's fine, because in about 10 minutes' time, Nigel Farage will be live. We'll be talking to him I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. First, though, it's time for the Great British Debate this hour. And I'm asking, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? Now, Kemi Badenoch has demanded that the government launches an immediate inquiry into child exploitation in Britain, which comes as Sir Keir Starmer is attacked over his handling of the Oldham grooming gang scandal when he was head of the Crown Prosecution Service, and with Labour blocking an inquiry into his conduct at the time. Well, it's now emerged that the Conservatives also rejected a national inquiry into grooming gangs in 2022 when they were in government. So, for the Great British Debate this hour, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? Is it always lessons will be learnt and nothing happens? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Lynn May, I'll start with you. Do we need an inquiry, a national, proper, full-blown inquiry?
I think so, but the issue is, I'm afraid, especially with this government, that we'll have an inquiry and when there's recommendations, no one will do anything about it. An inquiry took place in 2022, which covered since the 1980s. To date, which shows Labour and the Conservative massively failed so many young children and young girls. There were 47 recommendations. The QC at the time, Tom Cowther, he made those recommendations and it was a damning report. And this is what frustrated me about Kemi Badenoch coming out and saying, we need this, inquiry, and Suella Braverman doing the same thing. It was on their desk. They didn't do anything. The Labour government now are also aware of the recommendations from that inquiry, have also done nothing. So to have a national inquiry, to spend thousands, if not millions on that, for them to just sit on it again will be so frustrating. So what would be the point if they don't listen?
Well, that is the thing, but at least you could join the dots, because I think some of these inquiries are in one space, like Oldham and Rochdale, but they're not specifically going and looking at the actual network that is now in place. I mean, there's about 50 locations in this country where these grooming gangs are rife. Alex Cairns.
So I agree. I think for a long time, whether it's been an inquiry into this specific topic, whether it's been a Grenfell inquiry, whether it's been a COVID inquiry, inquiries take a long, long time. They get to a conclusion where they make recommendations. And as you said, I agree with you, nothing really happens. I think the broader point is actually maybe an inquiry into the criminal justice system. We know that things take years to get to trial. And even when they do, evidence is lost. Juries, with the way that they're picked, the administrative kind of process, prisons were overcrowded for a long time. So actually, I would much rather the Labour government look at the fact that we need something to be done. Because, I know one of my good friends is a senior detective in Surrey Police. She has 40 cases that she's dealing with on her own. That's a ridiculous situation when the recommendation is that it should be 1 to 15, not 1 to 40. So it doesn't shock me that a lot of cases we see never actually get to trial because they just don't have the resources to deal with it. And this is not Labour government specifically. This is a Tory, just a broader UK problem with the criminal justice system.
But I also think that the reason why we need to come down hard on things like this is because I actually am of the view it's racist not to come hard down on these things. With people suggesting, they had some level of fear because of racism against Muslims, or Islamophobia, or against Asian people. No, because there are thousands, if not millions, of good Muslim people, good Asian people, black people, whatever the ethnic minority, who are disgusted with what's happened. And for people to think, let's not do anything because of their colour, you're trying to suggest that us as brown people would support that abhorrent crime. So I do think there needs to be a complete inquiry and overhaul of the justice system, but not only just an inquiry, something needs to be done when we see the inquiry and the recommendations.
What about something being done in the meantime as well? So whilst they're carrying out the inquiry, they could do a bit of multitasking and start dealing with the situation and start bringing a lot of these perpetrators to justice, because these things are still going on, and there was an inquiry and there were findings. The findings were not put into place. And in the meantime, this is still happening. So I want action and I want an inquiry. I want action now, and I want to see the connectivity, the joining of the dots of all the different places where this is happening, and I want a proper investigation into how it's happening, how it's being facilitated, and why they're allowing it. I don't understand why this is being allowed to happen.
But Jess Phillips, actually, she made the same statement that Rishi Sunak did and other ministers in the Conservative government.
Wrong.
Well, actually, they're saying locally we know that the police in the area and the council have got to deal with it, right? They are the ones that have the kind of jurisdiction on this. The idea that the central government is going to get involved, and as you said, the Conservative government rejected it, and so did the Labour government. So this is not a party political issue.
No, it isn't, but the government needs to get involved. And the inquiry needs to encompass all of this, not just one.
The reason why,
not just one area, but there are about 50 locations that are doing this kind of grooming. So there's obviously some underworld going on. There's obviously something more to it.
Yeah.
So I don't think that whilst the investigations have been good, we need an investigation and inquiry, but we need arrests and we need some real justice.
I don't think it will happen because it will highlight the abject failure of Keir Starmer when he was head of prosecution,
Well,
and that's why Jess Phillips has rejected. I understand
Do you think that, though? I mean, you're saying that, you're speculating that.
Yeah.
That might not be the reason. I mean, I can't.
We can't say anything like it's definite, but let's drill down on this. Why would you, when there has been so much conversation around the protection of women, the protection of girls, child protection, sexual exploitation, trafficking, it's been, even Jess Phillips has spoken about it time and time again. Why would you not only send a letter rejecting an inquiry, but you were late, you had to apologise, and yes, locally it may be their responsibility. I work for local authorities, but we know that they're strapped for cash. We know they're strapped for resources. So if Oldham, which they did, reached out to central government saying, we need help, please assist us, how can you reject that? What reason could it be other than she's trying to protect the Labour Party, i.e. Keir Starmer, when he was head of prosecution?
Or do you think maybe it could be because that is a slim majority seat that she has there, and it's quite a heavy Muslim population, and she's worried that she may lose the, I don't know, favour from these parts of the Muslim vote. Do you think that there's anything...
I don't agree with this. Yes, the numbers were high. Yes, they were majority Pakistani Muslim men. However, like I said before, the majority of the Muslim population think those crimes are abhorrent. They're nothing to do with those crimes. And it shouldn't be incumbent on your political affiliation of, I'm scared about my seat. If you joined politics, which Labour politicians always say, we're not here to play party politics, we're here to protect working class people, we're here to protect women, children, then show us that you are here to do that.
A lot of people online are talking about the fact that Keir Starmer covered something up in his time as head of the CPS. Actually, in the final year, he was the person that started some of the prosecutions in Rochdale and actually looked at the processes and said, well, the whole CPS needs an overhaul. The whole thing, look, there's victims in this. I feel deeply upset about what I've read about the situation, and it's absolutely ridiculous, but it's a very complicated situation. And the idea that it's people putting it down to...
Why is it complicated?
I don't think it is complicated.
Yeah, why?
It's definitely...
Why is it complicated?
It's very complicated because it happened over so many years in so many different locations.
But it's still happening now, that you are aware of that, so it's not finished, it's still going on.
Well, you know, in all parts of the country, there's always going to be crimes committed, and that shouldn't take place, but the idea that it's a simple fix, it's definitely not a simple fix.
Do you know what? We have a huge issue with paedophilia and sexual exploitation of children anyway. You look at Hugh Edwards, you look at paedophilia gangs of different races, not much is done. Look at the sentencing. It'll be 3 months, 6 months, 1 year for sexual assault.
Hence why I said...
I don't think there's any evidence that the people that Hugh Edward had dalliances with or whatever he did...
For the images,
were underage, so I don't think that,
The images were Class A, so yeah, they were between 7 and 10 years old.
I'm going to step back from
that. Yeah, fine. Yeah, that's a completely different point.
But my point is about the justice system.
Exactly.
When we're
it needs an overhaul, right? It needs an overhaul.
Child crimes, sexual assaults against children, we do not take it seriously in this country. Keir Starmer was interviewed about Jimmy Savile. He said, the threshold wasn't high enough and he was a liked man. He said this from his own mouth. We do not take these crimes seriously across the board.
All right, well, that's her thoughts. What are yours then, May? Thank you very much. And Alex Cairns, what are your thoughts? GBNews.com/your say. In reply to Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has acknowledged that the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken, but maintained that local authorities should take the lead saying it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than for the government to intervene. She says that she welcomes the council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. Well, 31 minutes after 4 o'clock, you're with me. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up, I'll be putting the hard questions to Nigel Farage. But first, let's get your latest news headlines with Sam Francis.
Nana, thank you. Just coming up to 32 minutes past 4. Well, Nigel Farage received a standing ovation at Reform UK's conference in Chelmsford this afternoon after the party hit 170,000 members mid-speech. A live ticker showed the milestone as Farage addressed the audience, rejecting claims of dishonesty over those membership figures.
The ticker! And the ticker says 170,000! Kemi, are you watching on the live stream? Did we deliberately fiddle it so that it happened during my speech? Did it hell? It's happening, folks, because this party is on the march.
Well, it follows claims from the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch that Reform's online membership figures were fake. That's despite several news outlets now reporting the membership data was accurate. Farage told supporters he was offended by those accusations of being a fraudster, saying he's never been dishonest and never will be. He also revealed 900,000 people had tuned in online to their previous conference in Leicester. And speaking earlier at the Reform event in North West Essex, the Reform UK chairman, Zia Youssef, was among those poking fun at Kemi Badenoch.
We all know that we should be very grateful to Kemi. We should be very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, because in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more members than in any 24-hour period in our entire history. So can we please give a big Reform round of applause to Kemi Badenoch?
The Prince of Wales says he and Catherine are shocked and saddened by the death of his former nanny's stepson in a vehicle attack in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer was one of 14 people killed when a pickup truck ploughed through crowds on New Year's Day, injuring at least 35 others. The King has offered personal condolences as well to the Pettifer family, who say Edward was a wonderful son and friend, adding they are devastated by the loss. Meanwhile, police in the United States say the suspect, Shamsud Din Jabbar, also fired shots before being killed by officers at the scene. The FBI confirmed an Islamic State flag was also found in the vehicle, and President Joe Biden has linked the attack to terrorist motives. And the first boatload of illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel, with 50 people intercepted by Border Force earlier this morning and brought to Dover. It comes as figures show the number of people arriving in small boats in 2024 was up by a quarter on the previous year. And Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has called it a national security emergency, blaming mass immigration for what he's described as a complete cultural disaster. And as Nana mentioned, we'll be hearing from Nigel himself very shortly. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you in half an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there. It's a cold weekend to come for most, with outbreaks of rain, snow and ice. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of England and Wales through this weekend. So there could be some tricky travelling conditions worth checking before leaving the house through this weekend. Low pressure moving in from the southwest, bumping into colder air, leading to that risk of snow and ice, and already rain across the southwest where temperatures are rising, but snow across Wales, the Midlands, down into London, northwards through the evening time, pushing into northern England, eastern England as we head into the early hours. Outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. By the end of the night, temperatures under clear skies well below freezing, -7, -8 Celsius. Icy stretches, but mild across the south. Outbreaks of heavy rain developing here, but it is really the focus of the snow. We do have rain, sleet and snow across northern Scotland. Icy stretches first thing Sunday morning across the country as temperatures are widely below freezing. Icy stretches Northern Ireland, but it's really parts of northern England, North Wales, where the snow will be heavy and treacherous, perhaps up to 40 centimetres over the higher ground in places. Rain further south, but leading to the risk of some flooding as the snow melts here. Quite breezy too as the rain continues through the day, but it is really the focus of the snow, particularly across northern England and southern Scotland as we go through the day and afternoon on Sunday. Some brighter skies trying to push into the far northwest, but temperatures really struggling here, not much above freezing, but very mild across the south and southeast here, temperatures 13 or 14 Celsius with that southerly breeze. The risk of flooding into the evening time as further rain is expected across some southern and western parts. The snow continuing parts of Scotland right through into Monday as well. And it stays cold next week for many, temperatures below average with the further risk of snow at times. See you soon.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news,
Will, please bring us up to date.
or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons,
Very, very curious.
we bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back, 38 minutes after 4 o'clock. If you just tuned in, welcome. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Let's speak to Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. Nigel, welcome. Great speech earlier today. But you're currently the bookies' favourite now to be Prime Minister. Do you believe that Reform UK could actually win the next general election?
Well, if you take our general election score on July the 4th, we're 50% up from that. If we do the same again, we will win the next election. It is not impossible.
Now, a lot of people are saying, because Tommy Robinson, you know, he's a very vocal character on X, they're saying, why won't you allow Tommy Robinson to join Reform UK or let him join the party and be a more prominent role there?
Look, we are a political party that's on the up. We've just gone through 170,000 members. We put in place a rigorous vetting procedure for our candidates, not just for general elections, but for local elections as well, recognising our failings from the last general election. And, you know, Tommy Robinson does his own campaigns. You know, he's been in prison numerous times. And by the way, for those of you at home who think he's in prison now for exposing grooming gangs, he's not. He's in prison for contempt of court for the third time. He raises a lot of money off the back of all these appeals that he has for legal challenges. He can do his own thing. We're doing ours. I've made it very, very clear for many, many years I didn't want to have anything to do with him, and that position hasn't changed.
Now, there's been a lot of talk about Elon Musk donating to the party. Is he likely to be donating something? Do you know whether he's donating any money to Reform UK?
Well, look, I mean, don't believe what the Sunday Times say, that he's considering a $100 million donation. That is for the birds. Could he possibly be a donor to the party? Yes. Is he supportive of the party? Absolutely. Does he support me personally? No question about that. If he does donate money, he'll have to do it legally through a UK company. But I'll tell you something. Whether he donates money to us or not, he makes us, with a young generation of people who view him as a hero figure, he makes us look cool. And I tell you what, there isn't much of that around in British politics these days.
No, that's quite true. But he's also kind of expressed support for Tommy Robinson, hasn't he? Which is that worrying to you? You've met Elon Musk, you and Donald Trump. You're all sort of quite close in terms of your political leanings. Is that worrying that Elon is now almost seemingly to support Tommy Robinson?
Do you know, a lot of my American friends, including a very senior senator from Utah, Mike Lee, a lot of them think that Robinson's in prison because he exposed grooming gangs. And they're suffering under a misconception. That's because of the videos and documentaries that Mr. Robinson puts out himself. Look, you know what? You know, Elon Musk and I will have different views on electric vehicles, on many, many things. Free speech is about agreeing to disagree, but equally knowing what you agree on. I'm not in the least bit concerned about what Elon Musk says about Tommy Robinson. I will, at the inauguration, explain to him that perhaps things aren't quite as they look.
Now, last night, MP Marco Long, he defected to Reform UK. Are there any murmurings that any more MPs, maybe Tory, even Labour, might be coming over soon as well?
If other MPs or ex-MPs want to join Reform, that's great. But please don't bring your poison with you. You know, if we're going to import people into our party who want to spend their lives infighting, as so many Conservatives have done for the last 5 years, then we're not in the least bit interested. We've got our own momentum. We're attracting great people across a huge range of backgrounds. So, yes, happy to have people coming on board, but only if they fully commit to doing something that is united and will change the country for the good.
Now, today marks about 6 months for Sir Keir Starmer being in government. How do you rate his first 6 months, Nigel?
Catastrophic. I've never seen, and I've studied politics for over 50 years, I've never seen a government do so badly in a 6-month period. I mean, even the last 6 months of John Major weren't as bad as the first 6 months of Keir Starmer. They're doing terribly. The British economy is doing terribly. Confidence is down. Sterling's falling on the exchanges. 10-year interest rates are much higher than current rates. Inflation's going back up. And huge numbers of people in business are saying, you know what? Maybe we should just leave the country and go somewhere else. We are increasing the size of the public sector, despite its lack of productivity. In fact, it's falling productivity. We're decreasing the size of the private sector. We're doing exactly the opposite to what Scott Bessent, the incoming Treasury Secretary in America, wants to do there. We are getting this wrong, badly, badly wrong. And when it comes to the grooming mass rape scandal, which GBNews' Charlie Peters has done so much to expose. Frankly, I think both the Labour and Conservative parties come out of this terribly because they've both denied us the full, open public inquiry that I think this country deserves.
A lot of people would say that we've already had one inquiry. What were the things that were asked to be implemented for that inquiry have not been implemented, and now yet another inquiry. Nothing will get done. If we just keep having this conversation, lessons will be learned. Nothing ever gets done. So why will this inquiry be any different?
A full, open, public inquiry, live streamed, covered properly by mainstream media, at which we actually attempt to find out who covered this up. Who was it in the police force that covered this up? Who was it in social services that covered this up? Who was it in government, perhaps, who in maybe previous legal careers did their best to cover this up? We deserve the truth. This is, I mean, honestly, one of the most shameful episodes in the entire history of our nation. And what we've had is years of it being drip-fed out with minor little inquiries here or there. Let's do the job properly. Let's examine what both Labour and the Conservative parties have done to the social structures in this country through irresponsible policies of mass immigration without integration.
And your ticker, 170,000 members, excellent work. But Kemi Badenoch has been instrumental in getting you a couple of 20,000 or so from her comments. Are you going to do anything more than the event that you're going to have on the 31st? Will you take that any further?
Well, I was considering legal action against Kemi Badenoch for slander, having accused me of being a fraudster, but to sue You have to prove actual harm. I think so ludicrous were her crackpot conspiracy theories that she's added several thousand to our membership, I wouldn't win the case.
Yeah, well, you're certainly not... she certainly hasn't done you any damage at all. Well, Nigel, thank you very much for talking to us. That is Reform UK leader Nigel Farage. 46 minutes after 4 o'clock, joining me, political commentator Lynn May and CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Alex, you heard what Nigel said? Your thoughts on what he's saying? I mean, you know, making valid points.
Well, firstly, I think it's good that he's saying that he doesn't always going to agree with Elon Musk, because it seems like those two are, you know, very close friends. So it's good that actually I think everyone can agree Tommy Robinson. I don't necessarily think that's going to actually benefit him. What's interesting, though, is that I think there's going to be a portion of Reform voters that very much like Tommy Robinson. So we are going to start to see some splits. If some, I guess, more moderate Tory or ex-Tory MPs come over, it's interesting he's talked about don't bring the poison with them. That's interesting because, again, if he wants him to be a broad church, he can't be narrow-minded and think that people that have different views won't join. But actually, it's going to be interesting because I can see them having a situation where he's going to have to really bring the, I guess, the more moderates and the more hardline rights together. And that's going to be tough for him, you know?
You think,
I disagree. I think him distancing himself from Tommy Robinson and taking an ardent approach when questioned on Elon's comments, saying, you know, which he's absolutely right. I absolutely love some of the things that Elon Musk says. It doesn't mean I have to agree with everything. And it's good that he said that because it brings us to a mature place that we can see some people's opinions and say, actually, I don't agree with that part. And what that will do is it will attract more people from ethnic minorities that thought he did actually like Tommy Robinson and think, hang on a minute, Nigel Farage and Reform are a bit more measured. So if we're going to get rid of the people because they like Tommy Robinson, then I think that's a good thing, because I don't think he's the best character to be aligned with, if I'm honest.
All right, well, listen, stay with us. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. Coming up in the next Great British Debate, I'm asking, should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? That's next.
I'm Emily Carver. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Martin Daubney, weekdays from 3 p.m.
After the Hollywood ending that Wrexham Football Club have got, can Chorley FC benefit from a bit of the old celebrity magic dust?
I can't see why not. The guys have been down a few times now, and when they do come down, obviously they're bringing that with them. A little town like Chorley doesn't see much of the charts and big stars, so it's really nice to see them, and we always welcome them when they do come down.
And Mark, give us a flavour of the level of football. I understand you're in the National League North, right? That's 6 rungs down from the top flight. I mean, you're only just down the road from Manchester City, right? But I mean, give us a flavour of the two different worlds between your club and Man City.
Our players are all part-timers. So we've got kind of fitness coaches, we've got teachers, we've got all kinds of players who have full-time jobs alongside playing. Our average crowd is probably a tenth of what you get at Man City, probably even less than that. We get about 1,500 on a home game. The thing is, we know where we are and we understand where we are, and we are a real community club. Tonight, I'm ready now. I'm off to Marine, so off over to Merseyside. Playing the likes of Liverpool and Everton over on Merseyside would be kind of a dream come true. But we know where we are. We would just love to get to the Football League. So teams like Salford, Stockport County were in our division a couple of years ago, all flying now in the Football League. We just want to do the same. We sat down with the board last year and they told us a vision for the future, and that vision most definitely is that we want to be a Football League club. When we went to the Premier League, I know the boys have been saying that they 30 years will be in the Premier League and winning it. Well, let's hope we are, and let's hope I'm still around to see that.
GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody.
in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Well, if you just tuned in, where have you been? You've missed the interview with Nigel Farage, and also you missed Lee Anderson and Nigel Farage on stage. But don't worry, because we'll continue with the discussion right now. Because do you think that Reform UK could win the next general election? Because the bookies, Nigel Farage is now the bookies' favourite to become the next Prime Minister. And their membership has hit just over 170,000. So joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Right, so Alex Cairns, he's the bookies' favourite, Nigel Farage. Do you think that
Well, the bookies got it wrong, I think. He's not going to win the next election. You know, the polling I've seen actually looks at lots of winnable seats have got them on about maybe 35 to 40 seats, right? You know, I know that there's a Farage fan club happening today, but like...
I'm not in the fan club. There's no Farage fan club. It's just...
We're looking at reality, possibly.
Look at the reality.
Well, I am. I just told you, I'm looking at reality. Just because some bookies have him as favourite doesn't mean it's going to happen.
Not some, all of them. Bet365, Sky Bet, Paddy Power, William Hill 888, Betfair, Bet Victor, Ladbrokes, Unibet, SpreadX, Bet MGM, all of them are saying that he is the favourite.
OK, well, you know, I don't gamble myself, so, you know, I don't want to comment on the betting market, but...
Well, no, I don't gamble either, but you know, you're talking about stats.
Yeah.
Okay, and there are numbers, and so I've given you some numbers.
But I've seen polling that indicates that they're not going to go from 5 seats to 330.
Okay, let's look at... Forget the party for a minute.
What polling?
Huh? I've seen, you know, the... Britain Elects, I think it's called, and they've literally shown that they're not going to...
Let me have a look.
Have a look. You know, there's no... I've not seen any polling that shows that they're going to win a majority.
Well, I've just listed all the bookies who say that he's favourite. Lynn May.
OK, let's look at...
Britain Elects.
Let's look at the leaders. So if we look on the leaders... If we look at the leaders... Kemi Badenoch, Keir Starmer and Nigel Farage.
And Ed Davey.
Who breathe... Yeah. Ed Davey, sorry. Who... He's often doing some TikTok dancing around.
Yeah, but he's also talking about some serious stuff.
OK, Ed Davey, so we'll include him.
Yeah.
When you think of good energy, positivity, leadership, good relations with the United States of America, our biggest ally, who speaks to you in terms of success as a leader? Be honest, please.
I'm going to be honest. It's not Farage, honestly.
OK, who is it?
Huh? Do you know what? I know that hold on. I know that you mock Ed Davey, but in fairness, he's done a lot on social care, primary care.
If you're 10 years old, you like him.
What? That's a ridiculous statement.
He's always doing TikTok challenges.
Anyway.
Jumping off things.
You've got about 10 seconds.
Who would you choose?
I'd probably choose Ed Davey. I'm not going to choose Farage. He's not going to win the next election, and I'm going to be proven right on this, you know?
His family care about him.
OK, apart from his
family care about him.
Farage...
Well, stay with us. Thank you very much, Alex Cairns and also Lynn May. There's loads still to come. This is GB News. Coming up, should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? But first, let's get an update with your weather, and it could be snowing out there.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. It's a cold weekend to come for most, with outbreaks of rain, snow and ice. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of England and Wales through this weekend. So there could be some tricky travelling conditions worth checking before leaving the house through this weekend. Low pressure moving in from the southwest, bumping into colder air, leading to that risk of snow and ice, and already rain across the southwest where temperatures are rising, but snow across Wales, the Midlands, down into London, northwards through the evening time, pushing into northern England, eastern England as we head into the early hours. Outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. By the end of the night, temperatures under clear skies well below freezing, -7, -8 Celsius. Icy stretches, but mild across the south. Outbreaks of heavy rain developing here, but it is really the focus of the snow. We do have rain, sleet and snow across northern Scotland. Icy stretches first thing Sunday morning across the country as temperatures are widely below freezing. Icy stretches Northern Ireland, but it's really parts of northern England, North Wales, where the snow will be heavy and treacherous, perhaps up to 40 centimetres over the higher ground in places. Rain further south, but leading to the risk of some flooding as the snow melts here. Quite breezy too as the rain continues through the day, but it is really the focus of the snow, particularly across northern England and southern Scotland as we go through the day and afternoon on Sunday. Some brighter skies trying to push into the far northwest, but temperatures really struggling here, not much above freezing, but very mild across the south and southeast here, temperatures 13 or 14 Celsius with that southerly breeze. The risk of flooding into the evening time as further rain is expected across some southern and western parts. The snow continuing parts of Scotland right through into Monday as well. And it stays cold next week for many, temperatures below average with the further risk of snow at times. See you soon.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Imagine how £50,000 in cash from us could make your new year go with a bang. From treats to holidays to fun times with the family, a totally tax-free £50,000 in cash could make you feel alive in 2025. And just one entry into the Great British Giveaway really could make £50,000 cash all yours. For another chance to win, text cash to 63232. One entry costs £2 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63232. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start from just £2. You can call 0903 681 3232. Calls cost £2 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB10 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 6 p.m. on the 31st of January. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The BBC has been branded jaw-achingly stupid, not by me, by the way, over its decision to cast black and ethnic minority actors in the historical drama of Wolf Hall. Now, is this a forward-thinking idea or nonsense? Are we rewriting history? Henry, I mean, the Tudors were real-life people. They were pretty much white.
Well, some of these shows depart so much from historical context anyway that maybe it doesn't make any difference. But I think just generally we've got a problem in this country with portraying history in its correct sense. You can't change history. And I think it's about the motivation. If the motivation is to sort of to make a political point, then I think it's wrong.
What I find kind of tedious about people finding this instant jaw-droppingly stupid, Jesus was portrayed by somebody who's half Slovak and half Irish. Moses was portrayed in the Exodus by an Englishman. So, same with Anne Boleyn, was portrayed by Natalie Portman, who is Jewish. So if this is the one thing that's getting people angry, then there's something deeper within that rage, because I think Hollywood's been doing that, where people...
When you say something deeper, do you think there is a hidden racism and people are complaining about this?
Well, I think for some, maybe yes. I can't speak for everybody because this news dropped today. I don't know why they are thinking that it's egregious, but there absolutely must be some underlying racism if this is the only one that you're upset about.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hello, good afternoon and welcome. We are GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. It's just coming up to 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. And for the next hour, me and my panel will be taking on some of the big topics hitting the headlines right now. This show is all about opinion. It's mine, it's theirs, and of course it's yours. We'll be debating, discussing, and at times we will disagree, but no one will be cancelled. So joining me for the next hour, political commentator Lynn May, and also Chief Executive Officer of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. In my niggle, I tackled Jess Phillips' refusal for an inquiry head-on as whistleblower Maggie Oliver called Sir Keir Starmer guilty as anyone over the failures to tackle grooming gangs. You can catch it online if you missed it. So, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? I've got a poll up on X asking you that very question. Cast your vote now. Nigel Farage earlier told me he believes Reform UK will win the next general election. He addressed his party conference saying that mass arrival of migrants across the Channel has been a complete cultural disaster for our country.
I would even say what's happening in the Channel is a national security emergency and should be treated as such.
So coming up in the Great British Debate, I'll be asking, do you think Reform UK will win the next general election? And in difficult conversations, I'll be joined by sexual abuse survivor and ambassador of the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees. But before we get stuck into all of that, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good afternoon to you. Just gone at 5 o'clock. Well, the top story tonight, Nigel Farage has vowed to target the Conservative leader's seat at the next general election, accusing Kemi Badenoch of being a rude and ranting conspiracy theorist. At Reform UK's East of England conference in Chelmsford, he held up a phone showing the party's membership had passed 170,000 people.
Oh, the ticker. And the ticker says 170,000. Kemi, are you watching on the live stream? Did we deliberately fiddle it so that it happened during my speech? Did it hell? It's happening, folks, because this party is on the march.
Well, it follows claims from Kemi Badenoch that Reform's online membership figures are, she says, fake. That's despite several news outlets now reporting the membership data is accurate. Farage told supporters earlier he was offended by those accusations of being a fraudster, adding, quote, "I've never been dishonest and I've never will be." He also invited supporters to an event later this month to prove the numbers are real, adding that her criticism had only fuelled a surge in new members. Well, Chairman Zia Youssef claimed over 46,000 people have joined Reform UK in late December, crediting Kemi Badenoch's comments for making the party, well, the talk of the Western world.
We all know that we should be very grateful to Kemi. We should be very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, because in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more members than in any 24-hour period in our entire history. So can we please give a big Reform round of applause to Kemi Badenoch?
Prince William says he and the Princess of Wales are shocked and saddened by the death of his former nanny's stepson in a vehicle attack in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer was one of 14 people killed when a pickup truck ploughed through crowds on New Year's Day, injuring at least 35 others. His Majesty the King has also offered personal condolences to the Pettifer family, who say Edward was a wonderful son and a friend, adding that they are devastated by the loss. Meanwhile, police in the United States say the suspect, Shamsud Din Jabbar, also fired shots before being killed by officers at the scene. The FBI has now confirmed an Islamic State flag was found in the vehicle, and President Joe Biden has linked the attack to terrorist motives. And the first boatload of illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel today, with 50 people intercepted by Border Force early this morning and now brought to Dover. It comes as figures show the number of people arriving in small boats in 2024 was up by a quarter on the previous year. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has called it a national security emergency and blamed mass immigration for what he described as a complete cultural disaster. Those are the latest headlines. I'll be back with you for another update in half an hour. Now, though, it's over to Nana.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
But before we get stuck into the debate, here's what else is coming up. A looming cold snap could increase the risk of elderly people dying. Health chiefs are warning as Age UK criticise the government's limiting of winter fuel payments. Dr. Ellie Honderkamp will join me with her thoughts. Then, in difficult conversations, a sexual abuse survivor and ambassador at the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees, will be joining me. And in the Great British Debate this hour, I'll be asking, should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? The tech billionaire has been slamming Sir Keir Starmer for not doing enough to tackle the grooming gangs, whilst also praising Tommy Robinson. And don't forget my quick-fire quiz. You won't want to miss that. As ever, send me your thoughts, post your comments. I'll read some of them shortly. gbnews.com/your say. So heavy snow is expected. I looked on my iPhone and it said 12 o'clock, 12:30, the snow was coming. And there was no snow at 12:30 in the area, because you know how the iPhone or whichever phone will tell you the location. So there's no snow where I am. But it's apparently expected to hit England and Wales this weekend, with the Met Office warning that there could be considerable disruption in some areas. And the more severe warnings cover northern England to the Midlands and much of Wales, and are the place from this evening throughout Sunday, with 30 centimetres of snow expected in some areas. All very vague, but let's see if it's where Doogie Beattie is, Northern Ireland reporter. He's braving the cold in Londonderry. Let's have a listen.
Welcome to Ballymena. Yes, temperatures here last night dropped to around about -7. We've seen our first skiff of snow in Northern Ireland, and as you can see, it's still behind us now because temperatures once more are falling. Normally the sun would come through, but this freezing fog has been present all day long, which has meant that the sun cannot melt the ground and thaw out what came last night. So tonight at 9 o'clock we are due for more snow. That will mean it will fall on hardened and icy roads, making conditions slightly treacherous for tomorrow morning. Now, the real advice here today is please drive carefully when you're off A-class roads and you're on roads that may be untreated. Be careful. Make sure that you always remember that ice could be on those roads. Look out for the freezing fog. And just out of real decency, make sure if you're in and around people that are elderly, that you just knock their door and ask them they're okay. Things like outside taps, make sure that they're wrapped and insulated so as they won't freeze. But it's only snow, and we have dealt with this for many years. It's not unusual to see it at this time of year, in fact right through to March. Most people will be prepared for it, but tomorrow morning Northern Ireland and England may be waking up to quite a downfall of the white stuff, and it's advised to plan ahead.
Definitely plan ahead. So many parts of this country are battered with the snow, but not so much here down south. But the NHS has warned the public to stock up on food, medicine, as the temperature drops. Joining me now, GP and medical writer Dr. Renee Honderkamp. Renee, welcome to the programme.
Happy New Year.
Now, Renee, talk to me about this weather. Why is it so worrying? Because a lot of us will be indoors. I know the winter fuel payment, which I think is a very cruel policy, removing it from the elderly. But what do we need? How do we protect ourselves from the cold? What's the best way?
So, I mean, the people I'm really worried about, obviously, are the elderly, because the rest of us, you know, we might get cold, but we'll be OK, Nana. You know, we've got clothes, we'll put our boots on, just like you and I. It's pretty cold out there right now, to be honest with you.
It's not snowing?
No, but it suddenly got cold this afternoon, really cold. But the worrying thing is old people who can't afford to heat their homes, often living in old homes. And the danger for them is that when their body gets below a certain temperature, they risk hypothermia, which obviously kills. And it's not a big range. People think you have to be really, really cold for hypothermia. You don't. It's just a couple of degrees of your core body temperature. They put themselves at risk of catching infections.
What exactly is hypothermia? Is it just your body temperature dropping and then switching off your organs to try and keep you...
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. And your core temperature. It's not how we feel on the outside, it's what your core temperature is. And it's quite easy for old people to get there. And they're then at risk of getting respiratory infections, much more risk than than you and I are anyway because they're older, and being cold worsens that. Now, when you're cold, they're more at risk of blood clots, so they're more at risk of heart attacks and strokes. And when they're malnourished, because they're trying to save money maybe, that just exacerbates everything. Then the danger comes when they run out of milk, if there's snow on the floor, and they go out a few days later and there's ice, and they fall over and break a hip. A third of them will die within a year of a broken hip. They're absolutely catastrophic injuries for the elderly.
Okay.
You know, so we need to check up on our neighbours. We need to encourage our elderly people to worry about the bills later. You know, heat your home, even if it's one room that you're staying in, heat it. You know, but check up on them. We don't do that enough. We can actually, obviously, keep ourselves warm with extra layers. Layers are good, you know, they're really important. Hot drinks, that kind of thing. But check up on the elderly because they really are at risk, and make sure they're OK. And they become more isolated as well, which is also bad for them. So we really need to be careful. We need to make sure that we're washing our hands properly so that we don't spread flu, sneezing into a tissue, throwing it away, general health things to just try and not spread our respiratory diseases. But it is that time of year, so they are about. So if we can keep our bodies warm, we're less susceptible to them.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, and what with the cold weather, just the advice is really don't go out if you don't have to. Just stay in if you can.
Yeah, I think, you know, people that are not at risk, you know, do what you would normally do in this weather. But I think for our elderly, yes. But stay warm in the house. It's no good staying home, Nana, if it's 12 degrees in their house. You know, they have lost their winter fuel allowance, which is a crime, in my opinion. And we will see people die. We will. It will happen. Cold kills 10 times more people than heat. You know, it's important.
Yeah, it's interesting that because we actually want the planet to be warm rather than colder.
Well, the thing that they never talk about, actually, is if the planet does warm up by just 2 degrees, the number of avoidable deaths actually is huge, but they don't want people to talk about that because it doesn't fit.
Well, that's the thing as well, and also we'll be using less, so we'll be burning less carbon to heat our homes, which I suspect...
Not using logic now, are you?
I know, common sense, because I suspect that one of the biggest CO2 emissions must come from when we are all heating our homes because it's cold. But if it's warmer, then we won't have to do that. Yeah. But obviously we don't all want to fry to death either. That's not a good
No, we don't want to fry to death, but a couple of degrees will save a lot of lives. It really will.
And if I had the choice, burn or freeze, I think I'd choose to be hot.
Yeah, me too.
Renee, you're back for the Saturday 5. What can we expect?
Saturday 5, so I'm talking about why Labour despise working people, which they do. Alex is tackling the grooming gangs, and we have a really great interview with Maggie Oliver, who's going to come on and talk to us. And I'm going to talk about Meghan Markle, I know your favourite.
Oh,
How wonderful her new channel is.
Oh, isn't it wonderful? We love all that. So Saturday 5, Renee on
Don't miss it.
You'll be there. Stay with us. Thank you very much, Renee. Right, if you've just tuned in, where have you been? You've almost missed all of the show, but it's fine. Saturday 5 is on the way at 6, and you're here now. It is 13 minutes after 5 o'clock. I'm Nana Akua. This is GB News. Now, moving on to this story, 17-year-old Luke Littler becomes the youngest world darts champion in history. Here's the moment after the victory was confirmed over Dutchman Michael van Gerwen at the Alexander Palace. A great British success story for the UK. So, joining me now, Luke Littler's coach, Carl Holden. Carl, thank you very much for joining me. I used to play darts when I was younger. I used to watch Bullseye, and it was like all this and all that. People had a pint and a fag in one hand, and they would be chucking the dart with the other. But it's a very different game now, isn't it? It really is. Talk to me about how darts have changed, and also about Luke.
Yeah, I think years ago, it was a pub game and mainly older men played it. That's changed massively over the last few years. It's not half developed in the youth. There's a lot more money involved, and the kids are keeping themselves much fitter, but there's a fortune. Young Luke just won $500,000 last night, and other kids are seeing this, and there's at least 5 times more kids playing darts over the last 12 months just because of Luke.
So how did you come across Luke? Presumably you're a regular darts coach, and how did you come across him?
Well, Luke's one person that I've probably not helped as much as all the others because he doesn't need much help. He's just simply a sensational player. I met him when he was 9, and by the time he was 10, he was playing in the under-21s at the Darts Academy that we run. And out of the 3,000 kids we've had over the 12 years, he's just been sensational. From first seeing him to now, he's just getting better every year, and he's done something that nobody else has ever achieved.
It is quite fascinating, isn't it? And of course, there's no smoking and drinking in this game. This is a very serious game. It has changed somewhat. What do you think? What is the thing that makes Luke so special in terms of his ability?
Luke's ability is when he's on stage, he's very calm and he's very cool, and that is, it doesn't matter how good you are at darts, if you can't do that, you will never make it in darts. You'll make it, but not at the top level like he's done. But he is the full package. He's very good at darts. He's very good temperament. He can do what he wants. He keeps his calm. He's good with media. He's just a fantastic person, and for us to see him from age of 9 develop to what he is now, I feel very lucky just to be part of what Luke Littler's achieved. Obviously his parents and everybody else has done far more than myself.
Because, as you say, people might think it's just chucking a dart, but you've got to keep your hands steady. No shaky hands, none of that. Also, you've got to be quite good at maths, haven't you? Adding up the numbers and knowing... I'm always quite fascinated about actually how quick they are adding everything up.
Yeah, there's a way to, if you know what you're doing, should we say. I get a lot of people, even school teachers, come in my shop and they can't beat my kids who's 12 at maths. They've no chance because they do it differently. You've got to learn your checkouts, revise them, know them inside out. So, say 89's treble 19 double 16. If you're adding it up, you're doing it the wrong way. Just know the answer.
Oh, I see. So you literally memorise what the answer is and you kind of know it. And I hear you. God, well, it's a very good skill, actually, to be fair, just the maths of it all. So he's won $500,000, is that right?
Yeah, just last night, just $500,000 in a day. It's not bad.
That's not bad for a day's work. And what's his next challenge?
Well, I think he just wants to get better and better, and he wants to break records. He's already broke the 180s for the year, most ever 180s. Youngest player to win this, that, youngest player to win the youth. He's the youngest player to win the World Championships, and he's done that by about 7 years younger than MVG was when he first won it. So again, he's just going to break more records because he's simply that good. He's no choice but to break records if he plays the way he's doing.
Well, listen, before you go, you better tell us where your academy is, because you said that you have an academy that he came to, and I'm sure there may be some watching who have kids who are good at darts and might be tempted. So what's the academy called and where is it?
It's the St Helens Darts Academy. It's held at the Sideac Club in St Helens. Unfortunately, though, there's that and the other club that runs as well. We have 170 kids every week now, and we are at capacity with about 50 on the waiting list. Wow. So there is lots of other academies popping up, just like Luke Littler's town, Warrington, they've got one up, because you have to have an academy with Luke Littler living there. Nobody's playing darts. So there's one there, Runcorn. There's other ones popping up, you know what I mean, all over the place, and Lee all round here. So there is a lot more coming. We're just going to have to try somehow to expand ours, but we've got 18 boards and 200 people in the room and 100 kids every Monday, so we can't actually grow it anymore in there.
Right, you need to branch out. You need to franchise it. That's it, isn't it? Carl Holden, thank you very much. Really good to talk to you. That is Carl Holden. He's Luke Littler's coach, fabulous darts player who won the other day. But next, difficult conversations. I'll be joined by sexual abuse survivor and ambassador of the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees.
Thank you, Britain.
Thank you for watching.
Thank you for listening.
Thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for your support.
It's you that make us the People's Channel.
As we reflect on our journey so far, we're filled with immense gratitude.
You mean the world to us. We couldn't have reached this point without you.
As a very special thank you, we are giving you the chance to win one of 50 GB News thank you boxes. They're worth £50 each.
For full terms and conditions, and to enter, just go to gbnews.com/thank you.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Her name is synonymous with fashion. Karen Millen, the high street designer whose dresses have been worn by some of the world's most famous women, including the Princess of Wales.
Yes, but in a recent Daily Mail interview conducted by our showbiz juggernaut, as I call her, Steph Tetchy, 63-year-old Karen confessed she isn't immune from worries about her appearance.
Well, this summer, Karen took the plunge with a £35,000 facelift using the very latest surgical techniques. Now, to hear more of her story, we're delighted to be joined by Karen herself and consultant plastic surgeon Dr. Tunj Tiryaki, co-founder of the London Regenerative Institute. So, how did you two get together?
That was a meeting at the Parliament, wasn't it?
It was actually,
Yeah.
yeah, through mutual friends, really.
So you already knew of Tunj and you knew his expertise. How did you come to the decision to kind of go ahead with this? I was reading the Mail article and apparently one day you looked in the mirror. And I've heard this story so many times before,
Yeah, I know,
from
I hear
not
it.
least my mum and my nan,
Yeah.
and they said they looked in the mirror and thought, goodness me.
I
you
know. I think it's that menopausal thing when suddenly things just change. And yeah, for me, it was coming out of lockdown almost, where I was probably on the back end of menopause, and I just suddenly looked in the mirror and it was like, oh my God, what's happened to me?
Because I guess you still, I mean, for me, I'm 35, I still feel like a 20-year-old
Yeah,
or even an
absolutely.
18-year-old. Does that change as you get into sort of your...
Unfortunately not, right?
Well, it does change to a certain extent, but, you know, I've always looked after myself, so I've always kept fit and looked after my skin. So, you know, it did come as a bit of a shock. I mean, I know, obviously, ageing happens to us all and we have to embrace that, but there's a certain amount that we have to put up with and then, you know, other things can step in.
GB News, the People's Channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK.
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News.
The People's Channel.
Britain's news channel.
"21 minutes after 5, this is GB News. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. I'm Nana Akua. Now, it's time for difficult conversations. Now, Sir Keir Starmer is as guilty as anyone of a failure to tackle grooming gangs. That is according to whistleblower Maggie Oliver. And all of this comes as pressure mounts on the government to deliver a public inquiry into the gangs that systematically groomed and raped young girls. So for this week's difficult conversation, joining me, sexual abuse survivor and ambassador at the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees. Kelly, thank you very much for joining me. It's so good to talk to you. Now, I wanted to sort of start with what you can tell us about your story, because I know you're a survivor of this abuse and you're very brave even to be able to speak about it and be an ambassador for the Maggie Oliver Foundation, and Maggie, an incredible woman. But can you tell us a bit about your story?
Yeah, I was abused many years. You know, I can't go a lot into it, but I was, you know, abused on the streets. I was brought up, I was on a care order. You know, councils had duty of care for me, you know, and I was ignored and I was mocked. I was laughed at, you know, I was laughed at by certain police officers when I tried reporting the abuse. And that hasn't been easy. You know, so many of us was fobbed off.
Why do you think that they didn't take your claims seriously? You know, if you're a young girl being abused on the street and you're coming to the police for help, surely they should have at least listened. Why did they not take it seriously?
They didn't want to face the truth. You know, we was problems in their eyes. You know, when we're not the problems, we was criminalised. You know, abuse is a crime, and that is that. And we are human beings, you know. And if we have to, you know, abide to the law, then so do they. And they're supposed to be handling these reports with care. You know, they're supposed to take our statements. You know, I travelled this country, so I was taken seriously. And police stations and councils was nudged when I went to the foundation and when I went to the Truth Project. It wasn't until 2 years afterwards that they finally got in touch with me, and we are still waiting today.
It's just unbelievable. And how do you feel when you hear Jess Phillips saying that she doesn't want to have a national inquiry or a government-led inquiry, and that actually she wants the councils to do an inquiry and not the government?
I'm furious. I'm absolutely furious. Jess Phillips has refused that because they are scared of the truth coming out. And everyone is entitled to be aware of the truth. You know, we all should be able to feel safe where we're at, and we don't. Can you imagine, you know, these narcissists that are walking around on our streets today that haven't been dealt with? Can you imagine how triggering that is for these survivors like me? You know, this is really triggering. This is really hard. And then we're called upon when we express our feelings. You know, if someone's kicking off wanting justice and stuff, we are frowned upon. How is that fair? And these narcissists are walking around smiling and laughing because they are, and they're going round in circles. You know, they've committed this crime time and time again, not once, time and time again. And they're laughing, yeah, because they've been getting away with stuff for so long.
I mean, even now, I haven't seen much, you know, with people being arrested or stuff like that. I'm expecting to see some great, you know, arrest of people who've been involved in this, but I'm not really seeing anything. Has anybody been arrested as a result of what happened to you?
I can't comment on that. I'm not allowed to comment on that.
Yeah, OK. That's fair enough. That's fair enough. So how important has the Maggie Oliver Foundation been for you?
Do you know what? That's so important. You know, the survivors coming in every day. You know, we give them strength and courage. We listen with that care and compassion. You know, the survivors that I work with, you know, they're coming out of isolation, you know, because just with that listening ear, you know, they're coming out of isolation, they're joining society, you know, they're facing the fears. Some of them's been hidden in the homes for many, many years, and they're hidden in the homes because the people that abuse them are still walking around today, and justice has not been served. You know, in this country, the court logo is female of, you know, and scales. This country is not balanced with justice at all today, and it hasn't been many, many years.
So what would you like to see happen? Obviously an inquiry, presumably, but what else would you like to see happen?
I would like the inquiry to happen, therapy to be given to the survivors, you know, kind handling of these survivors. You know, they're already scared. These narcissists have drilled into them fear. They've got no worth. They're absolutely petrified. You know, these survivors need that support. They need that help. They need that care and nurture, not being fobbed off, not being laughed at. You know, they need therapists and stuff. But that costs money, and this is what this boils down to. That costs money. Money these governments aren't willing to spend on that.
It is shocking, especially as Jess Phillips is the safeguarding minister. So you would hope something would happen. And actually, we can't just blame her, because the Conservative Party, when they were in power and this was actually happening, didn't do very much about it either. I mean, there have been inquiries, but there's not really been any response to the inquiries and the findings of the inquiries. If people want to get in touch with the Maggie Oliver Foundation, because I'm sure there are girls out there, or, you know, who are maybe going through it, where can they go? How can they get in touch with the organisation?
If you go on the Maggie Oliver Foundation, you know, there is a link on there, you know, and we will be in touch. You know, you will be allocated someone that's suitable for you. You know, and you'll be provided emotional phone calls, you know, consistently. You will not be fobbed off, you know. And then there's the advocacy also. You know, they are a great support team. They really are.
All right. Well, listen, Kelly, it's really good to talk to you. Thank you very much for sharing your story. I really appreciate you. You're incredibly brave, and, you know, just keep doing what you're doing, because, you know, it is pushing through, and governments will have to listen to what is being said. Thank you very much. That's sexual abuse survivor and ambassador at the Maggie Oliver Foundation, Kelly Lees. Well, in reply, Safeguarding Minister Jess Phillips has acknowledged the strength of feeling that a further inquiry into child sexual exploitation in Oldham should be undertaken, but she has maintained that local authorities should take the lead, saying that it is for Oldham Council alone to decide to commission an inquiry into child sexual exploitation locally, rather than the government to intervene. She also says that she welcomes the council's resolution to continue its work with victims and survivors. Well, if you just tuned in, it's just coming up to 5:30. I'm Nana Akua. This is at GB News. We are live on TV, online and on digital radio. Lots of you have been getting in touch with your views. gbnews.com/your say. Richard says Starmer seems to like anywhere except this country. They seek him here, they seek him there. Another case of the invisible man. He seems to have tactics similar to Kemi's, Labour and Conservatives. No difference. A lot of people saying that. PW says Keir Starmer is going to get some drama when he comes home. I don't know, where is he? Has he gone off somewhere again? I mean, I'm just wondering. I don't even... Because he's always away, you never really know where he is. Brian says we are running a 51% gas, 13% wind, 0% solar, and the rest nuclear and biomass. At 5 o'clock, thank heavens for gas and nuclear. We've been let down by the lean, mean green machine again. There is some wind in Miliband. There is more wind in Miliband than in the air. That's funny. Oh, dear. Let's see any more of these. Keep them coming. gbnews.com/your say. And Jack says it's nice seeing Renee. Will she be on the Saturday 5? Yes, she's on the Saturday 5 in about half an hour. And... what does it say? Could someone please send Doogie a hat that covers his ears? OK, with GB News on it when he's outside. Will do. 31 minutes past 5 o'clock. Welcome. This is GB News. We are Britain's news channel. I'm Nana Akua. But first, let's get your latest news with Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. 32 minutes past 5. The top story, well, Nigel Farage has vowed to target the Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch's seat at the next election, accusing her of being a rude and ranting conspiracy theorist. At Reform UK's East of England conference today in Chelmsford, he held up a phone showing the party's membership had passed 170,000 people.
Oh, the ticker. And the ticker says 170,000. Kemi, are you watching on the live stream? Did we deliberately fiddle it so that it happened during my speech? Did it hell? It's happening, folks, because this party is on the march.
Well, it follows claims from Kemi Badenoch that Reform's online membership figures are fake. That is, despite several news outlets reporting the membership data is accurate. Farage told supporters he was offended by accusations of being a fraudster, adding, quote, "I've never been dishonest and I never will be." He also invited supporters to an event later this month to prove that the numbers are real, adding that Kemi Badenoch's criticism had only fuelled a surge in new members, while Chairman Zia Youssef has claimed that over 46,000 people joined Reform UK in late December alone, crediting Badenoch's comments for making the party the talk of the Western world.
We all know that we should be very grateful to Kemi. We should be very, very grateful to the leader of the Tory party, because in the preceding 24 hours of her ill-advised outburst, Reform UK signed up more members than in any 24-hour period in our entire history. So can we please give a big Reform round of applause to Kemi Badenoch?
In other news, the Prince of Wales says he and Princess Catherine are shocked and saddened by the death of his former nanny's stepson in a vehicle attack in New Orleans. 31-year-old Edward Pettifer was one of 14 people killed when a pickup truck ploughed through crowds on New Year's Day, injuring at least 35 others. His Majesty the King has also offered personal condolences to the Pettifer family, who say Edward was a wonderful son. Meanwhile, police in the United States say the suspect, Shamsuddin Jabbar, also fired shots before being killed by officers at the scene. And the FBI have confirmed now that an Islamic State flag was found in the vehicle, with President Biden linking the attack to terrorist motives. And the first boatload of illegal migrants this year has crossed the English Channel today, with 50 people intercepted by Border Force early this morning and now brought to Dover. It comes as figures show the number of people arriving in small boats in 2024 was up by a quarter on the previous year. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage has called it a national security emergency and blames mass immigration for what he describes as a complete cultural disaster. Those are the latest headlines. Plenty more still to come with Nana after this short break.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Hello there. It's a cold weekend to come for most, with outbreaks of rain, snow and ice. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of England and Wales through this weekend. So there could be some tricky travelling conditions worth checking before leaving the house through this weekend. Low pressure moving in from the southwest, bumping into colder air, leading to that risk of snow and ice, and already rain across the southwest where temperatures are rising, but snow across Wales, the Midlands, down into London, northwards through the evening time, pushing into northern England, eastern England as we head into the early hours. Outbreaks of rain, sleet and snow, Northern Ireland, southern Scotland. By the end of the night, temperatures under clear skies well below freezing, -7, -8 Celsius. Icy stretches, but mild across the south. Outbreaks of heavy rain developing here, but it is really the focus of the snow. We do have rain, sleet and snow across northern Scotland. Icy stretches first thing Sunday morning across the country as temperatures are widely below freezing. Icy stretches Northern Ireland, but it's really parts of northern England, North Wales, where the snow will be heavy and treacherous, perhaps up to 40 centimetres over the higher ground in places. Rain further south, but leading to the risk of some flooding as the snow melts here. Quite breezy too as the rain continues through the day, but it is really the focus of the snow, particularly across northern England and southern Scotland as we go through the day and afternoon on Sunday. Some brighter skies trying to push into the far northwest, but temperatures really struggling here, not much above freezing, but very mild across the south and southeast here, temperatures 13 or 14 Celsius with that southerly breeze. The risk of flooding into the evening time as further rain is expected across some southern and western parts. The snow continuing parts of Scotland right through into Monday as well. And it stays cold next week for many, temperatures below average with the further risk of snow at times. See you soon.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
If you want your news to be straight talking... This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again. Down to earth. It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it? And most importantly, honest. Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them. Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Good afternoon. If you just tuned in, welcome. It's 38 minutes after 5 o'clock. Now, where have you been? Some of you only just got here. I'm Nana Akua. There's 21 minutes to go, but still some very exciting stuff, because up next, the great British debate this hour. And I'm asking, should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? Elon Musk has continued to hit out at our government, accusing the Prime Minister of failing to prosecute the grooming gangs during his tenure as head of the Crown Prosecution Service, calling on the King to step down so that we can kind of get rid of our leader. I mean, can you do that? Is there such thing as getting, you know, you can't do that, can you? But surely the world's richest man has bigger fish to fry, or does he have every right to give his thoughts on the state of the UK? Well, Nigel Farage, speaking earlier, says that Elon Musk has full support of his party.
Could he possibly be a donor to the party? Yes. Is he supportive of the party? Absolutely. Does he support me personally? No question about that. If he does donate money, he'll have to do it legally through a UK company. But I'll tell you something, whether he donates money to us or not, he makes us, with a young generation of people who view him as a hero figure, he makes us look cool. And I'll tell you what, there isn't much of that around in British politics these days.
So, yes, so what Elon Musk did was he called on the King to dissolve Parliament. That's what he called on. So for the Great British Debate this hour, I'm asking, should Elon Musk stay out of British politics? Well, joining me now, political commentator Lynn May and also CEO of Youth Vote, Alex Cairns. Alex Cairns, we'll start with you. You look scared, don't be. I don't bite, not without a good...
I generally think that he is busy. I'm surprised he's got, as you said, enough time on his hands. He probably sleeps like 2 hours a night. You know, it's unhealthy. He's absolutely obsessed now with the UK, and I don't know where this obsession has come from. He should just focus on the US. He's about to take a government minister job, isn't he? Him and Vivek running, like, kind of government reform in the States. I think he should just focus on his own country and leave us alone.
But we are not, as it were, islands, even though we are an island, but we're not islands, are we? We're all connected by policies and obviously with his business. So he is the boss of X. And why can't he speak about British politics? Anyone can get involved, doesn't matter where you're from or what you're doing. If you happen to think something, surely you would think that he's using his platform correctly, especially when he spoke about the grooming gangs and things and saying something should be done. He's using the platform as a force for good, isn't he?
I don't think he is, actually. I've seen some of his tweets. I think what he's doing is...
One in particular did you find a bit offensive?
Most of them. I think he's just going on and on about, you know, this person should resign, you know, this is a scandal. As, you know, even Farage himself talked about the fact that he said Tommy Robinson is in jail for the grooming gang situation. It's not true. So he should get his facts right before he goes on Twitter.
You don't know why he's... Yeah, but those are two kind of separate things as to why he's supporting Tommy Robinson and the comments that he made with regard to Sir Keir Starmer. But anyway, Lynn May.
Well, I do support freedom of expression and speech. If he wants to have a few comments, why not? Twitter, as we can see, is his playground. However, I agree with you, Alex. I think we need to remember that Elon Musk is a businessman first. I think he has an agenda here. However, first and foremost, if the politicians were doing what they were supposed to do, we wouldn't leave ourselves open and susceptible to foreign entities having such an involvement on our politics. So let's start with there. If they did what they needed to, would he be able to say as much as he's saying? But you're right, a lot of the facts he's getting wrong. He's even coming for our monarch. He's coming for our royal family, our king, you know? And for many people that support reform do actually like the monarchy. They appreciate King Charles and his position. So for him to make demands and challenge our king and say, you know, dissolve Parliament, it doesn't even work like that. To dissolve Parliament, the king would need to hear from the Prime Minister first anyway. So I just think, at first I was looking at some of his tweets, I was like, yeah, OK, fair enough. I agree with you on that, you're right on that. Then he just looked like he was having a mental breakdown at one stage. Some of the things he was saying was so outlandish, it was unprofessional. Yes, I think Jess Phillips is completely incorrect for rejecting an inquiry, but you don't call her a genocidal rape apologist. Like, to me, that is so provocative and isn't a reflection on what's going on, even though we have failed those children, those young girls. So I think he should stay a little bit out of it. We can't ask him to completely stay out of it. He's an advisor to Trump. Trump is about to come in. He's going to donate possibly to reform. So that's impossible. But I would like some of his own advisors to just tell him, be a little bit more measured, because if it was on the other side, if we had, let's say, an extreme left party or a different sort of party, and someone like him, let's say George Soros or, you know, Gates having an involvement, we would not appreciate that. So don't just now support Elon because it supports your point of view. It's dangerous for anybody to have such an influence and power and a platform to try and dissuade our politics.
But then isn't that kind of what you could argue the BBC, ITV, a lot of the sort of mainstream so-called media, what has happened is they've simply been usurped by social media platforms. So before, we were swayed by whatever was happening because there were only 4 channels on TV when I was young. So the information that you received came from that one source.
And that's
do
why
you think that now?
But that's why we agree. That's why we find people like Trump refreshing, because they call out mainstream media. We famously hear Trump's
good, isn't it?
fake.
Elon do that.
No, because Trump is saying when we see disinformation come from mainstream media, what's the first thing Trump says? Fake news. What your friend Elon is doing is fake news. So my thing is, how can we listen and take on board the advice on what Elon's saying when a lot of his tweets are not even making sense? They're incoherent.
But there are so many other platforms, though. So just to... there are lots of other platforms that push out information to try and sway our way of thought, some of them more subtle than others. He is just very open about his political leanings, but some of them...
But they're untrue, Nana.
Well, I'm not defending him. I'm just saying that there are other platforms that I would say that subliminally send you a message, whereas he's just in your face.
I think there are a lot of young people. It's the same situation we see with Andrew Tate. It's exactly the same situation. A lot of people look up to people like that. They look up to people like Elon Musk. They've got to be really careful. If you've got, the saying, with great power comes great responsibility. If you're going to tweet things, you've got to check your facts.
Yeah.
And I just think he jumps on every single bandwagon there is. The guy is my issue with Farage and with people like Elon Musk. It's all about them.
No, they're not. But that's why I find
it's all about them.
That's why I find him disingenuous, and he's got an agenda for business interests because he wants power of Europe. If he really cared about if he really cared about grooming gangs and he cared about child paedophilia and rape. Wait. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying, let's say he really cares. His own country, South Africa, was the rape capital of the world at one stage fairly recently. I don't see him having the same energy for South Africa. I don't see him having the same energy for the school shootings in America. I don't see him having similar energy for many situations across the world. But everything, every day, it's Britain. Leave us alone, Elon Musk. Leave us alone.
No, I don't agree with you. I think that, sometimes you can have people who will start to defend this country, and I think a lot of people are thankful that there is an outside voice above Sir Keir Starmer. Because if you look at it, the Labour government literally have a complete dominance in politics. They have a massive majority. They can literally do whatever they like. They don't need the support of the rest of the other political parties. So somebody who's actually above them, bigger than them, making comments that I think a lot of British people appreciate and would like those comments to be made, because they have no power, and neither do our political classes. They have no power.
What's happening is Farage said that he had a long meeting with Elon recently. I reckon Farage is telling Elon, you pile on the pressure because it suits us, because we know that come the elections, I know what's going to happen. Elon is basically going to be tweeting constantly, literally about reform and about some policies. And as you say, he doesn't really care about some countries. If there's something that he cares about, he'll get involved. So he cares about reform and he cares about Farage. Because they're chums.
What makes him different from you, though? Sorry, hold on. If you care about something, you'll get involved in it. So that's just normal. I don't think there's anything different about that. But listen, we'll resume this in just a moment. Thank you, Lynn May, and also Alex Cairns. We're live on TV, online and on digital radio. This is GB News. I'm Nana Akua. Coming up, the quick-fire quiz where I test the panel on some of the stories that caught their eye this week.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date. Or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
What do you think?
Morning. I think we have failed young drivers as a society, and we need to train them better and train them earlier. I think that the idea of stopping them carrying passengers for 6 months is a good idea, because you've got peer pressure within a car. So yes, but I think graduated licenses are really difficult. You've got what we call the 3 E's, which is education, educating kids to drive earlier, engineering, which is making roads better and safer, and then comes enforcement at the end of it. So I think we're failing in these two first ones, the education and the enforcement. I put my kids, all three of them, through a thing called a Young Driver, which allows under 17s to drive on private land with ADI instructors and learn the craft of driving and all the below the dashboard stuff and hazard awareness long before they try and do this very compressed period of time to learn about driving. I think we're failing them. So I want to see it in schools, and I want to see them being taught much, much earlier.
Nobody's actually pointing the finger of blame, I think, at the young driver, but maybe young drivers don't understand how different it is. You feel you can drive, you've passed your test, and then a load of your friends get in the back, and suddenly the mood is different, the pressure on you as a driver is very different, showing off, just larking around and having a great time. Aisha, how do you feel about the fact that clearly young drivers do need to be protected almost from themselves, don't they?
Well, I do agree with some of what Quentin has just said, especially about starting early and especially about getting young people used to the dangers of being on the road.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect, and then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together, and what have we got? In my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Right, so it's time for the quick-fire quiz, the part of the show where I test my panel on some of the other stories hitting the headlines. Joining me, Lynn May. Your buzzer, please, Lynn May. And also Alex Cairns. Your buzzer, please. Brilliant. Right, let's do it. Question 1. Reform UK say they've had a surge in members join since Boxing Day, but how many people have signed up since then? Is it A, 35,000, B, 16,000, or C, 47,000? Do not buzz until I finish the question.
Pause.
16,000.
You're saying B, Lynn May?
I'm saying 35.
35. The answer is... It's 35,000. Well done, Lynn May. 1-0. Right. Yes, that's true. Question 2. True or false? Edinburgh cancelled the most New Year's celebrations, street parties and fireworks compared to any other city. True or false?
False.
You said false?
True.
I'll just take your first answer. You didn't buzz. I can't take that. Right. It is true. All right, I'll give it to you, Lynn May. Well done. Yeah, it cancelled all outdoor Hogmanay festivities after the Met Office issued yellow warnings for wind and rain. Question 3, an open question. Joe Biden and Donald Trump led tributes to former US President Jimmy Carter, who died aged 100 this week. But before entering politics, he ran a farm in his home state of Georgia, growing what? Open question. Lynn May.
Potatoes.
Aubergines.
Aubergines. Doubt it. He ran his family peanut farm. Peanuts. Yes, before winning the 1976 election. I knew neither of these would get it. They're both nuts. Although I think a peanut's a legume.
They are.
Question 4, closest answer wins. Scientists revealed the UK's biggest ever dinosaur track site in Oxfordshire. But how many dinosaur footprints were found in the quarry? Lynn May.
1.
3.
3. The answer is 200. Oh, 200. The closest answer wins, man. When you go a little bit more than that, you get that. 200. Honestly, you win that one because you went for 1. Yeah, the footprint stated to be around 166 million years old. Final question, multiple choice. Luke Littler became the youngest winner of the World Darts Championship last night. But what did he say his favourite post-match meal is? Is it A, fried chicken, B, a kebab, or C, beans on toast? Yes, in May.
Kebab.
Kebab.
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken. It is, in fact, is a kebab. Lynn May, she takes it. Yes, his comments went viral and led to the local kebab shop releasing a wrap in his honour. Well, listen, throughout the show, I've been asking, do we need a national inquiry into grooming gangs? According to our Twitter poll, 98% of you said yes, we do. And just a small 2% of you said no. Wow. I'm not surprised at that, but I've got to say a huge thank you to my panel, political commentator Lynn May. Lynn May, thank you very much for joining me. And also CEO of the Youth Vote, Alex Cairns, for joining me as well. Alex, thank you very much. And a huge thank you to you at home for your company. Up next, it's time for the Saturday 5. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, 3 o'clock, be there or be square. But now, I'll leave you with the weather forecast. Enjoy.
A nice bright morning will generate a lovely warm day, right through to the evening. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there. It's a cold weekend to come for most, with outbreaks of rain, snow and ice. Amber warnings for snow and ice across parts of England and Wales through this weekend. So there could be some tricky travelling conditions worth checking before leaving the house through this weekend. Low pressure moving in from the southwest, bumping into colder air, leading to that risk of snow and ice, and already rain across the southwest where temperatures are rising, but snow across Wales, the Midlands, down into London, northwards